Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt man! All right! Episode 84 of Shirt Show! We're talking with Danny from Daybirds in Colorado. Let's go! Shirt show!
What's up, Buttercup?
Hey, big dog. I think my voice just cracked.
Oh.
Did you hear that?
Did it finally drop?
No. You know how that is.
So what's going on, man?
Well, you were right.
I was?
Yeah. I think Don't Look Up should have been called Don't Waste Your Time.
I fucking told you.
Dude.
I wasn't stoked on it.
I fast forwarded through some of it.
Great.
Yeah, I think JoJo fell asleep a couple times. So I was like, I don't want to even watch some of it. So
yeah,
get it over with.
I love Leo and most of the
people,
Jennifer Lawrence and a bunch of people in that movie, but it just wasn't that good. Like everyone's like, oh my God, this movie was like, dude, it's so fucking cheesy. Yeah,
that my favorite.
The serious part of it is cool.
Yeah, and then Jonah Hill because he's just funny. Yeah. But no, don't do it.
The best part was when he asked her if she wanted to come into the meeting and she said yeah, and then he just shut the door.
Yep, I thought
definitely something I've done.
That was a Dylan move for sure.
Yeah, it was.
What did you watch? Anything worthy?
Yeah, I watched on Thursday. We watched Small Engine Repair. The movie was so good.
Is it on Netflix? I haven't seen it.
No, it's on demand right now.
Okay.
It's good.
Well, as far as watching shows and stuff, I mean, it's so cold and we've been staying home anyway. And so it's like, we just watch shows and we are almost caught up with Yellowstone, almost done.
I watched 3 or 4 episodes last night of Yellowstone.
Of like 1883, you mean, or what?
No, of Yellowstone season 4.
Okay.
I'm on episode 7.
Should we just make the whole podcast about Yellowstone? Like we could have Danny, like he signs in or whatever. And we're just like, hey, I know you thought we were going to talk about screen printing.
Nope.
No.
We're going to talk about Yellowstone instead.
Yeah. So I hope you've seen it. And then he'd be like, I haven't. Then what?
Then we just kick him out.
Okay.
Well, be like, well, catch up and then we'll schedule this again.
Right.
I've got a couple episodes to watch tonight to keep up on all my show watching. I got the new Boba Fett and I've got 1883 and more Yellowstone probably. Oh, and what's it called? Mayor of Kingstown.
I was waiting until you noticed I was gone, but I just had to adjust.
It's the same either way.
Mm-hmm. You were just talking anyway, and I wasn't here, but I could hear you.
Yeah, I figured that's how that works.
What else, man? Like, so we are selling our Sidewinder. I saw you put that up for sale. Yours up for sale. It was like a week ago, and I'm like, man, that's a really good idea. I've always thought about that because, like we only use it for that for transfers, really. And why have this giant press sitting, like taking up all this space? In fact, we even talked about that a couple of days ago, how it takes up like 9 feet.
9 feet, yeah. And the 6'8" that I ordered is 11.
Yeah.
So for 2 more feet, you can have a 6'8" auto.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you're unless you have all the space in the world, I mean, I'm a little bit. I don't know. Like, it's so rare we ever need that manual. So,
I know
if we run into a job where, like we're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? Well, then I guess we just don't do it.
Well, the funny thing is, even if somebody here has like a special project, like they're making a shirt for like their cousin or whatever, like one shirt, they're still throwing on the auto to print it.
Yeah.
They're throwing on Trilock real quick, bang, bang, print it, take it off, done.
It's just faster.
You
know? What's going on? Like, what'd you do this weekend?
I made smash burgers last night in the cast iron, and I'm making some sous vide steak tonight.
What's that?
The sous vide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's like a heating element that goes in a pot, and it keeps the water temperature. Like you fill it with water, and you can put like steaks in it, and it cooks them at like, it's like a consistent heat. So if you wanted like a rare or a medium steak, you'd set it at like 130 and run it for like an hour. So that way, when it was done, the steak is like perfectly cooked at medium. There's no like guessing with like cooking in a pan. Then you just take it out and you sear both sides and then eat it.
So it's sort of like boiled hot dogs.
Yeah, it's basically boiled hot dogs.
It's just fancy. Like sous vide. It's sous vide hot dogs.
Right. You could cook hot dogs in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I head up north and I make it there, you're gonna have to make me some sous vide hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's on the menu.
I'll bring it with me when I visit you, and we'll just make them.
Mm. Well, dude, I made Hawaiian pizza last night, and I should have used aloha temperature. You fucked up my punchline. Okay, I'm going to say it again.
I heard aloha temperature.
I made Hawaiian pizza last night, and you were buying into it, and then I said should have used aloha temperature
because it's something you would do.
Actually, Joanne likes it. I don't really.
Don't
like
throw Joanne under the bus.
It's
like
okay. I mean, it's okay.
You know, Joanne
Hawaiian
loves pineapple on pizza.
She does. A lot of people do. It's popular.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really like it. Not on pizza. I love pineapple though.
Can you believe all the shit that? Damn it! I fucked it up.
Good. Then you deserve it. You deserve it. You interrupted me on my fucking dad joke. There you go. But go ahead. Try it again.
I said, can you believe that I can't do it. Can't read.
You want me to say it for you? Here.
Nope. I'm done. Shut it off.
I think it might be this joke because it's close.
Okay, go ahead.
What happens when you eat aluminum?
It's the sheet metal one.
Yeah. I'm getting these from the Dad Jokes Instagram right now.
I know. That's why I've seen most of the ones that you say. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to try this again. Can you believe they are still together after all the shit they've been through?
No.
And you're supposed to say, who?
Oh, who?
And then I say, your butt cheeks.
All right. Oh, man. That was
real
rough.
Good. Yeah, it was real rough. Real fucking rough.
Mm-hmm.
I got your ornament right here in this mug that you sent me.
It's supposed to go on a tree.
I don't fucking care about Christmas trees. I got this ghost boner right here.
Did you have do you still have your Christmas trees up?
No, actually they were all getting taken down today. That's what Lynn's was doing at home all day, was taking Christmas down. So thank God for that.
Yeah. Ours is still up, and I think it will stay up.
You're like a July takedown kind of guy.
No, more like a little earlier than that. A couple weeks earlier.
Wasn't last year, the year before, that fucker was up like well into spring?
I think 2020, the COVID year, we just left it up because it cheered us up. You know, we thought the world was ending, and we're like, hey, but we've got a tree. Yeah, we can put presents under it. But no, actually, it's part of it's come down. It's just still not all of it. We're working on it. It takes a minute.
So how was your week? I feel like it was a really weird week for every printer because of how the state of things are right now.
Oh yeah. You mean as far as
like busyness, non-busyness?
Oh,
employees out.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were referring to. Yeah. We were probably down 20%. I guess that's to be expected though. You know, everybody was out, at holiday gatherings and New Year's Eve and all that stuff. Or I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people were. And that seems to be what's going on. So yeah, we had a few people out. We managed though. I mean, of course it's slower time. It bipped.
It did bip.
So
I noticed at the end of last week though, it started to curve back up. Like I've got some real good quotes going on right now.
Yeah, same.
And we got the schedule going up. So stoked for that. Got a couple good projects done this week. Doing more tomorrow. I got a sweet new ink shelf up.
Oh, yeah. I saw you were building. Is that going to replace an ink shelf or just additional?
Yeah, because we used to have like one long one on the wall over by the ink station. And then we had like an additional like replica on the other side of the room on another wall. Because it's just kind of like how it was made and it was easy on space back when we had one auto and we kind of left it there. I always hate the fact that it was like on separate sides of the room. So like if they were looking for an ink, they had to like walk over or find it, and it wasn't near anything else. So it was kind of annoying. Plus we had more than that now. So we had this like weird catch-all rack in the middle, and it was stupid.
Right.
So I just kind of built like 4 more shelves over by that area and put them all together and condensed everything. And then
you had space for that? Wow.
Yeah. So when we had a slow day last week, they finished like after lunch. They like three people just like pounded it, and they got all the inks like organized, put in like order of Pantone and everything, and like knocked it out, and it looks really awesome. So I'm excited to have like all of them over there. And now we're going to catalog them too. So like when sales sells something, they can look through and be like, oh, we already have this mixed. Let's pick that one over maybe like a shade higher or lower or whatever.
Right.
So
yeah, we need to do a lot of that too. We started, but it's a massive undertaking. You know, so that's going to be a next week project. We got caught up in just consolidating and reducing our stock. You know, like we had sort of like you. So we had stock in 2 different spots, you know, and so that was confusing. In fact, it almost turned into 3 different spots. And so we took everything, and I moved it way over to the other side. And so we just have 1 spot now, made that spot bigger, reduced it by, I don't know if half is the right amount, but a lot, because we just had so much. Like it just builds up over the year, you know, and normally we want to sell it at maybe a spring sale. And what I mean by that is just like, sometimes we'll order some shirts and the customer will change the color on you or the style. And sometimes, most of the time we send those back, but other times it doesn't even make sense. Like it's cheaper just to keep them here, you know, than to pay to ship them back and stuff and restock or whatever. So
yeah, restocking fees and shipping and everything.
We just keep them here sometimes. And so that builds up over the year. And so we had all that stuff, and we loaded up a pickup and took it to Goodwill, just all that extra stuff. And, you know, you can only keep it so long, and then it wants to change color on you.
We had,
stuff.
We have a customer that's a really good customer that does a lot of like big festivals and events and stuff like that. And I probably had like between 500 and 1,000 of exactly what you're saying. Just like odds and end shirts, or like a whole order I misordered like color wise. And I was like, fuck it, it's not worth sending back. So we had a ton of that stuff sitting there. I called up the guy and I was like, hey man, like I will literally sell you all these shirts at cost, like shirt cost, like not printing, not nothing. Just like, let me put a 1 color print on them. As long as you agree to just like, it's totally random. Like the shirts are fucking all over the place. Like give me a white ink design and a black ink design, and I'll separate 2 piles of like what would work best on each. And he was like, yep, I'll take them. So last week we printed, you know, whatever it was, like 600-700 shirts. And we just boxed them up. We're going to send them to them. And that was all of our shit, like random stock.
Yeah.
Like they're all good shirts. They're just like random. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, here's 50 extra large white tees. And it's like, I don't know, just fuck it, get them out of here.
Yeah, I got rid of all of the like stuff you wouldn't want to print on. And then we still have we have several hundred like just t-shirts, and I was going to either use them for test printing, you know, because it costs almost as much to buy test tubes. But I would say that's a really good idea. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to think of a customer who would say, hey, yeah, just give me anything, you know, and print 1 color on it for cost. It's a great idea.
That's what I mean. Like they can take them to an event and just like, even if they sell them for $10 or $15, they're still going to make money on them.
I thought about putting just like a shirt Kong on it and giving them away at the front.
We've done that too.
Yeah.
I actually have a whole bunch in the front room right now. I want to get rid of. They're from like 4 years ago where we did that. And I don't know. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you know you can get rid of them. Because the other thing too is you're printing them on blanks that you necessarily wouldn't want people to have. You know what I mean? Like if you had a bunch of leftover Gildens and you put shirt Kong on it, people are gonna be like, "Wow, this shirt Kong shirt sucks dick."
Well, no, I think they would say, "Wow, it's a fucking shirt Kong shirt. I want it." Like doesn't even matter. Whereas yours, maybe that's why you're stuck with them. You know,
right.
Says Upstate on it. I mean,
doesn't carry it. It's more the shirt they want, not the design. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Poo, 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 poo.
Yep.
I don't even know if I did enough fuzz.
Frank and his team are screen stretching experts.
Wizards. Or lizards. Are they lizard people?
No, I like wizards. It's true. If you didn't know Frank did this, we don't talk about this much, but be sure to ask for that silicone seal when you order. It's an additional cost, but worth every penny, because what it does is it prolongs the life of your screen.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
it's also fun to cut out too when you have to cut a screen out, like putting the razor blade in the caulk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's not a reason to get it. I'm just saying
that's true.
Like,
no, it's the only reason.
Satisfying.
Just when you're cutting them out, it's a little more fun.
I have a big stack right now to send back to Frank.
Mine's getting bigger, but not quite yet. But when you do have a stack to send back to Frank for restretches, or you just want to buy brand new screens, give Frank a call or go to graphicscreenfashion.com. FFFFF.
Did you do that right? You had this weird skip in there.
FFFF. Yep.
I don't like it like that. Rank.com.
Or
greatfuckingscreens.com, which is the preferred for trackage.
It is. I wonder what website. It seems like he gets a website every year, a new one. So
too many websites at this point.
No, I mean 2022 will have.
I think we just keep it at frank.com or greatfuckingscreens.com, because I don't think you can top greatfuckingscreens.com.
Yeah, like you mean just get rid of his original, like
the real graphic screen fashion needs to go away. I don't even know what that means. Mm-hmm. Let's just stick with Great Fucking Screens.
Okay, we'll make the decision for him. Mm-hmm. Cleaning screens is no fun, but Easy Way makes it funner.
We're no fun.
That's not how it's supposed to go, but I kind of like it because
okay.
Yeah, Easy Way makes it funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will help you clean your screens and your shop. That doesn't even.
Let's just say it's good ass chemical. Okay, Easy Way. It's the easiest way. Good ass chemical. Next.
Check them out at easyway.com. Action Engineering. They make a ton of rad accessories. Go to Action Engineering to have a look. Then use Shirt Show at checkout and get
15% off if you're of one purchase.
Yeah, and they're changing that soon, I hear. So
we keep teasing that.
Mm-hmm. It's coming.
Pretty much anything you need. If you need any press like pallets or squeegees or flood bars or any weird tools or any specialty pallets and squeegee rubber. They have
do yourself a favor.
Ton of stuff.
As far as squeegee rubber, do yourself. Man, I'm gonna have a tough.
We are fucked today. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think we need to. We haven't stretched yet. I feel like that's what it is.
Hold on.
Okay. I seriously do need to stretch though. Oh, you hear my chest pop.
I need to stretch way, way, way more because my elbows, they've been hurting lately. We're going to try this again. So
speaking of, I bought a pillow cube the other day. I think rules.
Did you put it like on your chair for your back?
No, it's like for my bed, for my head.
Cube though. It's not round, you're saying?
No, it's a fucking rectangle. It's like a perfect rectangle.
Why?
Oh, well, since I got my machine, most of the time I have to sleep on my side, and my shoulder's been hurting me because I have my regular ass pillows like make my shoulder crunch in.
Okay.
And I wanted something that like picked my head up higher. So I've been like stacking pillows, and I was like, this is kind of stupid. I wonder if there's like a good pillow for this. And then I kept seeing these ads for the pillow cube, and I got it, and I like it a lot. It's awesome. So it keeps my head and shoulder like perfectly off the bed.
I've got this.
That isn't an ad, by the way. We're not advertising the pillow cube. I'm just saying.
You can't see it. Doesn't matter. I just have this pillow, and it's a lumbar support. It's like it's in my back. It's in my lumbar region right now.
Your lumbar.
And it's keeping me straighter. You know what I mean? How I want to kind of slouch down. Keeping me straighter.
Mm-hmm.
Feels good. But do yourself a favor and order a 6290-60 squeegee triple duro and put it in your white screen.
Yes.
And then thank us.
About 15 degrees roughly.
15 degrees, 35 pounds of pressure, a speed of number 4, whatever that is on your press, but it's number 4 on an MNR. And by the way, you can only pull off number 4 if you have thin thread and if you have a Frank screen. So
yeah, do yourself a flavor.
Single stroke. You just single stroke it. Boom.
Actionengineering.com.
Yeah, I think I said that.
I know. I'm just a little refresher. We talked about pillows for a little while.
That's true. Monarch Color makes amazing ink. They've got some killer whites and a high opacity mixing system that gets you accurate colors fast.
True.
You like how I emphasized accurate?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, because if you mix some ink and it's not accurate, then what the fuck?
Right. I do love that Aaron also asked us a while ago to make him 2 designs for Long Beach, like shirts for Monarch for Long Beach. So he made these super rad designs of like a Sasquatch and a Yeti. And we actually get to print them tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Oh, he didn't ask me that.
Yeah, well,
he knew where to go for the real printing.
Mm-hmm.
But look, learn more at monarchcolor.com. Ink better, print better, be better.
Live Moss.
Monarch. Do you know how to say Danny's last name?
Isn't it like Gruninger?
How say it again?
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Say it.
I can't.
I think you were right.
I have to look at it.
It's Gruninger. Or so
yeah,
Gruninger. Gruninger. Yeah.
Grr. Just say Grr. Just growl.
Grr. Today's guest is Danny Grr.
Perfect.
From Denver Print House. Oh, sorry. Formerly from Denver Print House. And now has started a new shop called Daybirds. Daybirds Printing.
Yep. I'm excited to hear all about it.
Me too.
We've been trying to get Danny for quite a while.
He's here. So
let's do it. You let him in?
Yeah. You're going to have to really step it up because I can't. I have no idea what I'm doing. My mouth isn't working.
My mouth never works.
I can't say words.
Me neither.
Fellas, what's up?
Hey, man. What's going on?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out on a Sunday in this shitty weather in Colorado.
Oh, you have shitty weather there too?
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm sitting in my office here, and it's so it's like a wing on the side of my house, and there's no insulation.
Perfect.
And right outside, there's like a foot of snow. So it's freezing my balls off right now.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is here. We had an ice storm last night. So when I woke up this morning and decided I wanted to go to the shop, my car was completely encased in ice. And then I've never actually been able to do this before. And I got to do it today where you roll your window down and it stays ice covered and then you can punch through it.
No shit.
Yeah. So that was pretty good.
That's
and then all my friends in other parts of the country are like, wow, it's horrible here. And they're like on their balcony in like 85 degrees eating cereal.
I know that's crazy. I'm ready to go back to California.
Yeah, for real. Speaking of, are you going to go to California?
Yeah. So right now I booked my tickets last week, and I feel like it's going to be, kind of a shit show. Just, no M&R. That was always, I'm not like a huge M&R guy, obviously, but they were, back when I started, they ran the show. It was, still to this day, like walking in and, that big M&R booth and, seeing Rich Hoffman there, like that was awesome. Right.
Right.
And just the fact that that's not there, it's kind of like, this is pretty shitty. But
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm ready to go just to, hang out, see friends, shoot the shit, drink some beer, we'll see.
We were thinking the same thing. And me and Andy have gone back and forth on this like 10 times, just individually being like, should we go? Should we not go? And same thing, like no M&R. And then we saw a bunch of other people dropped off. And then we were like, well, we could still go and hang out with friends. But then the friends I talked to were like, yeah, but it seems like most of the places we would go hang out are going to be closed or super restricted. So like realistically, what it's going to be is let's get a 30 pack and go back to the Airbnb
Yeah.
And just
that's
hang
all
out.
right though.
And I was like, cool, let me fly across the country to hang out in your apartment and drink beer.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine with me though. Like, I was thinking about it today, just kind of reminiscing on all the Long Beaches, over the years. And, there's been all this like, rock bands and crazy shit the last few years. And it's like, that's cool. But for me, like just those back rooms, like, late at night, around the fire, that's really like what that show's all about to me. So, I mean, if it ends up being at an Airbnb with a bunch of printers talking, nerdy print shit and, shop stories, like I'm good with that.
Dylan, Danny just sold me. Let's buy some tickets. I mean, I know we were like already made a decision, but fuck it. Let's just get some tickets and go. That sounds so good.
And then when we get there, we see Danny getting back on the plane, taking off, going back to Denver.
That would never happen. No, I'm totally set. Like I was super bummed because, so like now that I'm running a bunch of, as you guys have seen, I'm, MHM presses, I've got a Tasoma dryer, SPSI, they had a bunch of rooms blocked out and they're like, yeah, you can have a room with us. And I was super bummed because last week they hit me up and they're like, we canceled all of our rooms. None of us are going. I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm still going to go. Just cause you guys aren't going, that's not going to stop me. So yeah, I was kind of bummed that I don't have a hotel room. So I got to figure that part of it out. But
just that's outside. It's warm, right?
Yeah. I mean, California, it's good.
Right. It's totally fine.
You touched on something though about the show and that kind of reminiscing about how M&R was there. And isn't it good that there is all that competition, that when we go there, there's M&R that makes presses, there's Rock, there's MHM and Anatol and so on. Isn't that cool that we have a choice? It's not just one auto and this is what we all use, because I think that all of the different manufacturers have, like, there's pros and cons to every one, and so I really think it's great. And also what competition does, and that makes each one better, and to come out with like this new press or an improvement on even an old press. So, I mean, I don't know, our industry is really fortunate to have competition.
The cool part is though, too, is you can easily walk to each one and like know people and they're happy to talk to you at each one. And like you said, like each manufacturer has some, differences, and those differences are really cool to see at different places, like presses that do different, even though it's not stuff that you have in your shop, it's still cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like Andy said, the competition as a whole right now is really good. And, when I, made the switch from, M&R to Rock originally, that was such a tough move for me, just because, like the personal connections, the Rich Hoffmans and all the guys at M&R that I was so close with, they made that really tough. But like I told Rich back at the time, he was super pissed. And I was like, Rich, this is going to make your company better. This is going to make all the printers are benefiting from this so much, because you're going to make better shit, because Rock might have something that's a little bit better here. MHM might have something a little bit better that's here. And all this competition, it's good for all of us. It's good for me. It's good for my buddy that runs a shop.
Yeah.
And, I talk to guys about it all the time, because, there's such a press wars in this industry, and I'm so fucking sick of it. It's like, my first press was a workhorse, right? A workhorse Freedom, a 6-color, 8-station V squeegee. I mean, that thing was a fucking chunk of, we all know, right? But it teaches you how to be a really good printer, and you can make it work. And that press made me shitloads of money. And at the time, not knowing what else was out there, I thought it was the best. Mm-hmm. And for me and my company at the time, it was really good. And that's just what I get so sick of, is like, what's good for you might not be the best for me.
Yeah.
And, guys ask me all the time, should I switch to Rock? Should I switch to MHM? And it's like, I'm not going to be the salesman that's just like, yeah, go switch, because, honestly, it might not be the best for your business.
Yeah. And we talk about it all the time, where we feel like it's who gives you the best support in your area, or like, who is your connection? Like if you have an issue with anything, or you need to find something out or learn something, like who can you reach out to? That's the best option for you. And it's like, we know a ton of shops that are in Chicago. It's like, dude, like Chicago, you're right next door to M&R. Like it's probably makes sense for you to like drive over there and fucking pick up a part or whatever you're going to do. It's like, that makes the most sense. So I don't know, there's that, but it's also like, what kind of printing are you doing? Like what press would make more sense? But yeah, I agree with you. It's just kind of like, I feel like they all print shirts and they're all going to do well. It's just what works best for you and who gives you the best support.
Yeah. I mean, support definitely trumps, most everything. There's a lot of, I guess technical things on some of the new presses that, I feel like make them, like guys ask, should I get a Sportsman or like a Cobra? It's like, to me, it's a no brainer, right? When you have a press with the pallets going up and down, that is just like, that technology is just old. Like, I think that should be phased out. Right. So if you're comparing a press with pallets that go up and down versus pallets that, are stationary, to me, it's a no brainer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, as a whole, the show looking back on like Long Beach, that's what I'm just super bummed about is, like being a car guy, you go into like the auto show and you get to see all the manufacturer's best stuff. Mm-hmm. And now this year, it's kind of like, you don't really get to see anything. So it's, it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I don't even know who else is going to be there other than Rock. Cause I think Anatol's gone. M&R's gone. Yeah. I heard Cornette pulled out. I heard all the big digital Aeon, all those guys pulled out.
Yeah. I don't know if Workhorse is going to be there. So if they are, it's going to be Workhorse and Rock as far as equipment manufacturers.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully you guys show up. We can have a big, maybe beach party and.
Oh, Andy, now we got to go for a beach party.
No. Wow. I mean, these guys are going to have a big party. Yeah. I mean, that's what they do out there. So
I feel like that's going to be the only thing now is it's going to be, people are going to be like, fuck it, we're here. And then there's just going to be like big ragers.
Yep.
So we're missing out, dude.
You guys got to come.
I know.
Not too late. It's not too late.
Danny, can you kind of step back and tell us like way back how you got started or how you even got involved with screen printing?
Yeah. So, going all the way back, I started my first shop in 2005. I graduated high school in 2004. At the time, so I started working pretty early on. I had a buddy that his dad had a machine shop, and I got connected with him because I actually started racing cars when I was about 11 years old. So I got involved in drag racing at a pretty early state of my life. And I had a buddy, so his dad gave me a job at a machine shop, started there, kind of worked my way up. I ended up.
What do you do in drag racing at 11 years old?
So they have like, just little mini dragsters that kids race. Kind of just, it's the stepping stone to, getting into a bigger car when you when you get an actual driver's license.
Not like a go-kart, like faster than a go-kart.
Yeah, definitely faster than a go-kart, but like basically a go-kart engine. So they start out as, I think they have a 5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton engine in them. Just a really, basically a souped up lawnmower motor. Mm-hmm. And so I got involved in that, and like in a roundabout way, that's kind of how I got involved in t-shirt printing. So I got involved in drag racing early on. When I was 17, there was a guy here in Denver, really successful guy, professional drag racer. He owned tons of racing companies. Like, he had probably like 20 different businesses. And then he was the biggest Miller Lite beer distributor on this side of the Mississippi. And like he had, like the guy is just, worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was driving to my other job every day, And I would stop at his shop just to hang out because I thought it was so cool to like go to this guy's engine shop and, you know, just watch them build all these engines and all this kind of stuff. And one day a guy in the shop was like, do you just want a job? Like you come here hanging out every day. Like, and I was like, fuck yeah, I want a job. Like this is really
that's
cool.
The reason why I'm here.
Like, yeah, I want a job. So they gave me a job. I was 17 at the time. Still in high school. I had just, you know, I got through high school. I just graduated and I was in the back of the shop one day, like running the parts washer, just washing parts. And I remember my hands were just like, you know, it's like if you're in a washout booth and you're not wearing any gloves and you look down and your hands are just fucking like melting, like, just they're almost disintegrated. So I was back there washing shit and, you know, I was making like, I don't know, $12 an hour at the time. I'd been there for probably 2 years and I watched this truck drive by, this big stake bed truck, and it had all these pallets and shit on it. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And I go out back and it's a guy that's delivering all these boxes of t-shirts. And I'm like, holy shit. Like this dude that's bringing all these t-shirts, he must be like rolling in dough. And like, this dude's like, he's got a legit business. Like I'm here washing parts for $12 an hour. And this dude's like, I don't know, he's got to be doing good. So that kind of like planted a seed in my head, right? Like, you know, t-shirts, like everywhere you go, somebody's wearing a t-shirt. Right. And at the time, my parents, they were running, it was like a trophy business, kind of like really small. You know, I think they bought that business. It's kind of funny. They bought that business when I was like 9 or 10 for $17,000 and kind of just chipped away, you know, little local mom and pop trophy shop. And people eventually started asking them about, you know, t-shirts, apparel. So between my job, seeing this guy delivering t-shirts, my parents, you know, taking t-shirt orders a little bit, that, you know, that planted the seed. And then I think it was like Thanksgiving or it was some sort of holiday. And I was over at my uncle's house and my brother, I think my parents were there. I think, you know, obviously cousins, aunts, uncles, stuff like that. And I went into the basement just to like shoot pool with my brother. And we walked down there and there was this old ass fucking American 8-color 4-station manual screen printing press that my uncle bought at like a estate sale. And I was like, what is this machine? And my uncle was like, oh yeah, I bought that to print t-shirts. And I was like, really? Like you literally bought that machine? Like that fucking machine prints t-shirts. And I was like, okay, like this is it. Like there's so many things in my life that are like,
it's funny how everything's pointing you in that direction.
Right. Like everything was just pointing me at like t-shirts. And so the very next day, like I told my brother, he was, I don't remember what he was doing at the time. He was working full time. And I told him, I'm going into my job the next day and I'm fucking putting in my notice. I'm quitting. I'm buying this press from our uncle and we're going to start printing t-shirts. And literally I did that. I went in the next day. My boss, that guy that owned all these companies, you know, really big, really successful Denver business mogul guy. Like just, you know, I went to him and I was like, hey, I'm going to put in my notice. I'm going to start a company. And he looked at me. He's like, you're the biggest fucking idiot in the world. You're never going to amount to anything. Like this idea sucks. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's basically what he told me. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, no way. Like,
and that motivates though too.
And like, I'll go back. It wasn't him that said that. It was the shop foreman that said that. Okay. So like, but the shop foreman was the guy's nephew. So they were family and like, it's always that dickhead nephew. Yeah. It was just like, he told me, and like at the time, like looking back on it, like I was there a couple years, like I was the young guy. They were really investing a lot of time, like training me and stuff. So, yeah, I think that was kind of a tough thing for them to swallow.
I'm glad it ended up being the shop, the production manager or whatever, and not the owner, the entrepreneur, because You would think as an entrepreneur, whenever somebody comes in and tells me that, or if I ever like, even if I'm driving down the street and I see a lemonade stand or whatever, I want to support that business and say, hey, that whatever inspiration or whatever is motivating them to have that little business. I think it's so cool. And for this guy to have said that to you, you're like, fuck off,
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks.
It was shitty, but like, honestly, like you said, so like the guy that, was the main guy, he hit me up later and was like, we talked about it all. Cause I was like, the way that your nephew handled this was like crazy. Like he told me I'll never amount to anything. And honestly, looking back at it, that was the best motivation I could ever fucking have.
Yeah.
Right. So, I left there. Going back to it, I started with that manual press. I bought another manual press. It was a Vastex. So I started, with those two presses and just a really small, like 400 square foot shop.
Was it called Denver Print House?
No. So that shop, it was called T-Shirt Technologies is what it was called. So like super dumb name. I don't know where that came up.
I was going to say, why did you not keep that one?
I don't know. So like, I don't know. So that shop really small, like within, I think the first year I scaled it enough to where I bought that Workhorse Freedom. So I bought that 6-color press, and like back in this time, 2005, there wasn't, I think the only like YouTube videos was like Ryan Moore, talking about fucking pulling a squeegee and, doing some stuff like that. There really wasn't, cooking a fucking shirt in your mom's oven, curing it, there wasn't really anything to, get a company off the ground, I guess. So it was just a lot of, beating my head against the wall. I remember like one of the very first orders I did was a royal blue hoodie. And it was just a single color white print on it for like the school down the street. And I did the hoodies. Like I thought they looked kick ass. I delivered them. And the next day and they called me up and they're like, why is the ink baby blue? And I'm like, no, there's no way. No way. It's like, I printed white. Like I know I printed white. And like, of course we all know now, like it was dye migration. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just so many of those mistakes, over the years of, learning and trying to grow. But really what kind of, I guess, started scaling my company was working in those machine shops and working for that guy in that high-end engine shop. And then coming into this industry, it was like, what the fuck is going on? Like there's no systems, there's no processes. Everybody does something different. Like every rep that comes into my shop, like this sales guy's telling me to print it this way. This guy's telling me to print it this way. Like, to me, it was fucking crazy. And like being in the machine shop, like you're talking, every little thousandth of an inch, every, they have to be so precise on, like their cost of material. Like if they buy, $1 million of aluminum today and tomorrow or a month it goes up in price, like they got to account for that when they're building all those parts. And our industry, I came into it and it was so archaic, I felt. And I think that's really what made me want to be more technical with it and, really just put in the time of, figuring out how to become like an award-winning printer. Right. Because I felt like all the guys doing it were just like not, there's a lot of guys like the Kudres and, John Weiss and Dave Gardner and all those guys, they were doing it legit. Like they figured it out. But like most of the guys in my town, the guys down the street, they were just like fucking hacks, So I was like, in order to separate myself, I got to take this to a different level somehow. And that's going to be being more technical.
Mm-hmm. Did you start to figure things out and kind of write them down and then make that into a thing when you hired people and so on that kind of taught them those things? Or you just kind of more like, I want to learn for myself, and you just kind of kept going that way?
I mean, looking back, that's one thing I've done really fucking bad is like passing that knowledge on. Right. Like, I mean, I think the passion for me was always like everybody goes home, the shop shuts down. That gives me my like free time. That gives me my like R&D, my just unwinding. Like I can really like start breaking all the rules. Like this rep brought this new white ink in and he's like, print it like this. And it's like, no, motherfucker, like I'm going to go in my shop tonight and I'm going to spend like 8 more hours and I'm going to figure out how to print it the way I want to print it. And to me, that was just my passion, right? Like that was my kind of how I nerded out and geeked out. And I guess just learned the things that I learned was trial and error, screwing stuff up. Like some of my best shirts that I developed for, you know, some of like my Disney projects, some of like the really high end retail projects that I do R&D and development on were total mistakes. Like things that, you know, I was mixing this with that, or I was trying this new technique with this different type of squeegee. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, so I learned that, but then did I start passing that along? No. I mean, I've passed along some stuff, but I think I could have definitely, or I could be better at that. And
I'm guilty of that too, though. I mean, the way what you're saying sort of resonates with me. I kind of, when I came up in screen printing, there weren't YouTube videos, there weren't Facebook groups or anything like that. I didn't work in another shop first. I started in my garage. And so, like you said, reps would come by, or I would go, or I would call them and say, you know, how do you do this or that? And they would give me like point me in a direction, I guess. But what it came down to is making all those mistakes and then trying to figure out how to be more efficient or have it look better. And all those late nights in my garage, just trying to, I think I spent my first few years in screen printing, learning how to screen print like really, really well. And I didn't know how to run a business. I just really was learning how to screen print and sort of maybe making a few bucks, you know, but then it started to change. And I was like, hey, I had all this, I built up my screen printing knowledge. And then I said, okay, wait, I've got to learn how to actually, you know, run this business. Now that we're getting busier and I'm building this reputation, people are starting to call me. Well, then how do I actually run a business? Because I think that was equally as hard, maybe harder actually, you know? And so what sucks is I thought I was there. Like I thought that, you know, oh, I'm really good. I'm the best printer, I think, in my town right now, but that really didn't matter because nobody knew even how to find me at that point, you know? So it's complicated.
No, and I mean, I think that's what originally kind of put me on a path, or I guess led me to selling Denver Print House originally, was the fact that I just recognized I wasn't good at a lot of those things, right? Or maybe I'm not great at them or good at them, but I just didn't want to deal with them, right? So it's, you know, for me, like I love the print. I love the, you know, the technical side of, you know, executing. If somebody sends me a gazillion color simulated process job, I want to be able to make that so fucking badass. Or, you know, if they want flock foil and HD and all kinds of crazy shit on a shirt, I can pull that off. But when it comes to like hiring, firing, HR, doing payroll, doing all the bullshit, like I fucking hate it. Right. Like it's just not, it's not what I want to do. So when I had the opportunity, when I scaled DPH to where I got it right before I sold it, and like, I wasn't looking to sell, that wasn't, you know, that I think, you know, looking back at it, I'm so glad I did, just because I learned so much from it. But when it happened and opportunity came up and these guys came in and they were like, have you ever thought about selling your company? I was like, no, but would you sell it? I was like, fuck yeah, I'll sell it. You know, it really stemmed back to the fact that I realized at that point, I wanted to be a part of something bigger because I was a really good printer, but I sucked at all these other things.
Right.
And that's what kind of led me to sell it, you know?
So what did you do? I mean, we kind of jumped from the workhorse days to that. What did you do scaling up? Was it just you and some friends, or was it you and then you hired people and then you got to the point where you're like, I just don't want to fucking deal with this stuff? And then you got to the point of selling it, or what?
So the first, so it started just me. Within like 3 months, my brother came on board. So he kind of took on the whole pre-press, post-press. Like he was more the, you know, like internet networking, computer, like, I'm not really good with any of that type of shit. Like if you ask me to set up like a modem on a fucking network, it's never going to happen. So him and I started, really kind of throttling the company. For the first couple of years, we got the workhorse. It was doing a lot of friends of friends stuff. I think we had a couple part-time employees that would just help us out. That was really the time that I was just focused on trying to learn the craft more, trying to become better. After, I think it was in 2010. So it was about 5 years after, at that point, I merged with my parents' trophy awards business into a new location. So those first 5 years I was in one location, my parents' trophy business was in a totally separate location. We decided both businesses are doing pretty good. Let's put those together. Let's put them all under one roof. That's what we did at the time. We did that for about 3 years. And in 2013, my parents were they were getting pretty burnt out. They were, they didn't really want to be involved in much anymore. So they decided to just sell their trophy business. They got out of it totally. That's when I started to really, scale the business more. I had a couple contract clients that, again, going back, I'm not a great salesman. I was never I didn't throttle the company based on my sales. I aligned myself with other, really good agencies and really good, companies around Denver and, surrounding states that had really good sales teams and really good design teams. And that's kind of how I started to scale the company. So how
did you do that? So when you said you aligned yourself with these people, what does that mean exactly?
So my very first break, or I guess kind of break with one of the agencies that I still work with this day, they were doing stuff for MTV and a bunch of big, beverage companies and things like that. And I was like, fuck, I really want to do their printing. They do really cool stuff, So I started emailing them. I started calling them, and I would send them one email every single month. And after 9 months, or it might've been 8 months, 8 or 9 months later, I get a phone call and they're like, hey, our printer fucked up. We have a 400 piece order for a big music merch client. SIM process. They don't even know what to do. Can you help us out with it? And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Bring me the shirts, or I'll go pick them up. So I think my brother went and picked up the shirts, brought them back to the shop. I stepped out the artwork. That day we printed the shirts. I delivered them back to their place that night. And they were like, holy fuck. You just your print quality is so good. Your service was so good. And then the very next day I had probably $5,000 worth of POs in my inbox of just new jobs.
And they were like, are you going to deliver those tonight? Cause that was really cool.
Yeah, no. And to this day, they're one of my best clients. These guys, they're really good. They've got a team of 30 designers. They do, just really, really sick stuff. Really good sales, but they want to have nothing to do with production.
Yeah.
So it worked out really good for me in terms of I can take them techniques and I can work with their designers to develop techniques on the print side that they can go sell. And I don't have to, outlay the cash to have a big design team or a big sales team. And it keeps me doing, all these cool, passionate projects that I really like doing.
That story that you just told about how you gained that customer, I've done so many times. And I think that it's so important when let's say you have your schedules is packed and you're 2 or 3 weeks out, but somebody comes along and they're in need and they are in that situation that you just spoke about, and they need shirts, somebody messed up or whatever, or they have this event and they would just really love these shirts, and you come through and you're a hero to them. That could be a lifelong customer. I've done that. I don't know. I can't even count how many times, because and that's the trick though, is you have to fit it in. You have to work around your schedule, whether it means staying late or coming in a weekend or whatever, pushing a job out that can maybe push. If you get that job done and you're a hero, well, then you, like you just said, you've got that customer still.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and like I said, like they're a great customer. It really, like they pushed me into a whole nother level of, what I was able to do with the business just because of the demands that they put on me. They were printing for the biggest retail brands. They were, I went from printing for like, the baseball team down the street, the local business, the school with like a big blocky fucking vector design to these guys were sending me like, full photograph. They were sending me like special effects stuff. They had clients pushing for water-based. They had clients pushing for stuff that, really just elevated me to another level.
Right.
So
you were forced to figure it out.
I was forced to figure it out. Like they were such like a good client. Like they were bringing me like crazy shit. Like I remember they brought me they had a really good client that was a brewery and they just built probably like a 10-foot by 15-foot rustic wood sign. And they're like, we want the company's logo screen printed on that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like I print fucking t-shirts, man. Like this is like a 10 by 20-foot fucking wood billboard. Like, and literally I figured it out. Like I ordered a custom screen. I built a squeegee. I put it on a broomstick. Like I figured out how to do that. Like I exposed
Here's to you,
the sun. So like, it was just, you do that for certain clients, right?
I guess because I think nowadays I just say no so much more. Like I know I used to do that sort of stuff, but every once in a while, like I would shoot myself in the foot and like, why did I say yes to this project? And I think that's good and bad. I think that, like you just said, you would have never got to, like, you were sort of an innovator, not sort of, you were an innovator. You pushed the boundaries, you pushed our industry. And I think I get into this pattern or this rhythm of, look, this is what we do. This is what we're good at. I don't want to do anything else. Like, why would I take on this project? I just say no. Like introducing this into my day is just going to, like, I don't know, be a huge speed bump. And so why would I ever want to do it? Dylan, I don't know. Are you the same? I mean, if somebody comes to you and they're like, can you do this? I used to be the guy like, oh, I'll just make my own pallets to fit it or whatever. Fine, cool. I'll just make it work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the stories I have, like you guys could call up Rich Hoffman, and we had a fight one day because I called him up, and this was like back when Affliction was like big, right? Everybody was like trending to these all over prints, like foil on them. Like looking back, it's so fucking dumb. But I had all these clients that were like, we need that style. We need to do it. And the first M&R press that I had was a Gauntlet 2 that I bought from a company going out of business in California because they were getting fined a shitload of money for dumping shit down the drain. Totally separate story. But anyway, I had this Gauntlet 2 and it was only like a 16 by 20 print stroke, right? Or image area. And it was airheads. And I remember calling Rich and I was like, I got to print all over. I need this press to print all over. He's like, I've talked to my engineers. It's impossible. There's no fucking way it can be done. And I was like, Rich, like I've looked at this, like, I just need you to sell me this part, this part, this part, this part. And he's like, all right, I'm going to sell you the parts, but you have you can't return them. You can't they're as is. I'm selling you as is. And I was like, fucking, all right, fine. So he sold me the parts. I built all my own fucking all over pallets, like out of plexiglass and fucking masonite wood and all kinds of shit. And he came to my shop like 2 months later and we were ripping a fucking 300 piece hour all over print, 8 color fucking job on a fucking old ass Gauntlet. And that's where to ask what kind of helped my business scale. That was one thing right there, because Rich came into my shop and he was like, holy shit, this dude, my engineers told us he could never do that. And he did it. And from that point on, it really elevated me with Rich and his company and all the people in the industry. Cause I was just like I was breaking rules, right? I was doing things that all these people were like, no, you can't do that. That'll never work. And I was
how'd
like,
you do it? Did you like double index, skip ahead or something?
Yeah, skipped ahead, double index. Like I had to fabricate all new, or like the air actuators. I had to put on, they were not off the formula, but they were off of a bigger like graphics press at the time. So all the air actuators, it wasn't like a huge deal, but I guess their engineers thought it can't be done.
Well, the thing was too, is that you had the drive and you were like, no, fuck, I don't need to figure this out. Rich probably fucking like grabbed his phone. He was like, hey, can we figure this out? And they're like, nah. And he's like, yeah, they said, fuck it. They can't do it.
Exactly. But then like going back to like Andy now, like if somebody comes to me and they're like, we want you to print a wood sign I'm like, no, fuck you. I print t-shirts. I use 23 by 31 screens. This is my image size. If it doesn't work, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't deal with like anything. Like if you want, like I print t-shirts, right? Like even the other day, clients, they want to send me bags and this and that. I'm like, I've printed so many bags. I've printed millions of bags over the years, nylons and all kinds of stupid shit. And it's like, all I want to do now is print t-shirts. That's it. Like I'm at the point to where that's it.
Yeah. We've discussed this multiple times where I feel like same thing. Like we've gone through the years and a customer asks for something. We're like, fuck yeah, we could probably make it happen. And there's a red flag instantly. And you're like, I guess we'll try it. We'll make it work. And then you learn stuff. I mean, we all learn stuff from it. You know what I mean? Like how to print this or what to do and what not to do. And it's nice to have that knowledge, but afterwards you're like, I don't want to do that ever again. So there was a million of those weird projects where we made something work and made it happen. But then afterwards, I think we're all far enough in our careers where we're just like, what would be cool is if we just printed like rad t-shirts all day long.
All day.
so
yeah.
I'm
so
totally
then
looking for that.
I guess like 2013, 2014 time, there was another company here in Denver and they were really big into resort, national park, that whole kind of tourist industry. The guy or the couple that owned the company, they were looking to sell, looking to retire. They had a bunch of old M&R equipment they were going to have to upgrade. So instead of upgrading and like building a new shop, they were like, would you be willing to, take on our client base, start doing our, production for us? And that was kind of the next big step for me to scale the company. So at that point, I basically merged with those guys. We ended up putting 5 M&R automatics together. And they had a full, like we were doing all our own dyeing, custom dyeing. We had a full dye house. And so I guess that was kind of the next, leap in the company.
When you do something like that, is it something where you were just trying to figure it out on your own of like, I guess this sounds like a good business idea? Or were you like really involved with like asking people and lawyers and figuring all this shit out before you dive into merging with another company?
No, I mean, at that point, it was really, so they had a lot of just badass clients. Like they just wanted the work. Yeah. Like I saw the work that they were giving their clients and I was like, this is fucking trash. Your art is so bad. Your print quality is just like disgusting. And you still have like all these really big clients. Like, I mean, we're talking like big, like, Vegas casinos and big, national parks and just like really high-end clients, big clients. And I'm like, holy shit. Like if you guys are doing stuff for like, these big names and it's trash, let me and like my team of people. So like one of my designers, you guys know Jeremy Duncan, I think. I worked with Jeremy really close for a lot of years and I still work with him. But he's one of the most talented screen print designers like this industry's ever seen. Like in just terms of if you give him an idea, he can execute it really, really well. And him and I worked really good together in terms of, this company, they had all these big clients. And I was like, let's go develop a whole new line for, hard rock. And I'd have Jeremy design all this shit. I would go, sep it, apply special effects, do special techniques, and then I would give it to that company, their sales reps, and then they'd go sell it. And that's how I saw the opportunity in, being able to get the clients that way and get the business that way.
We do that quite a bit. We'll see an opportunity exact same way. We'll go to a company and see what they have to offer. And we're like, let's just I'll go out on a limb and I'll pay that artist. I'm like, hey, just make me 4 designs or make me a whole, a sheet or whatever. And then I'll get a meeting with them and present them with the artwork. And they're like, oh, you already made us new stuff. And they're like stoked on that. So yeah, there's definitely a huge plus in doing that. And it's funny too. You were talking about how this shit printer had all these really good clients. It just goes to show how important the connection is. You know what I mean? You don't know, but way back when, that company might have done something similar to you, where they pulled through in a need and then kept that customer. As long as they were giving them stuff, even though the quality was shit, it was probably just because they had them.
That's really what I learned, I think, pretty early, was some of those relationships are so hard to break that it's better just to, I guess, combine and, work together with those people than to try to just entirely cut them out.
Yeah.
Some of those relationships are years and years and years deep, and those sales reps, the way they work together, you're never going to break into that market. I know there's some markets out there that I could be the best fucking printer out there. My print quality could be so good, I could deliver the next day, but because of the relationship that company has with the sales rep, I'm never going to get that job.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I looked at that acquisition. Was I didn't really get lawyers or anything like that involved, because I just felt like deep down, they've already got a piece that I don't have. And the missing piece that they do have is something I really need. I don't need an attorney to fucking tell me that. I don't need to really it was a pretty black and white structure with them.
Did you become partners, or did you become owner of their company? And
no, I just acquired everything from them.
Got you.
So there was at that point, there's a dollar amount that you decide on. Basically I bought their book of business, and then I hired some of their employees. And, that's kind of how that transaction went down.
What did that do to your company at the time? Did that double your sales, or how large were you before you merged?
Yeah, so before I merged, I was doing the year before that. It was one of my best years. I had 8 or 9 employees, and I did 2.7 million in sales, which was really fucking good. And then when I took that merger on, they were about the same size company. Previously, over years, the economy, in 2008, their company took a big hit, and they were just pretty tired of, working. They were, ready to retire. At one point, their company was doing about 8 million in sales a year. When I acquired it, I think it was doing about 4. But it was every year they were losing. They were, kind of losing business just because their shit was outdated. That's where I looked at the opportunity, was I can influx technology. I can influx their shit. Yeah. New art. They were taking months to ship shit. And I'm I'll ship within, weeks.
I think that's one of the toughest things to do, merger and acquisitions, because I've done it twice, kind of. It was on a much smaller scale. But what I thought was sort of like you, I'm going to take this company, I'm going to acquire their equipment, some of their team, and then also their book of sales or their book of accounts. But it didn't quite work like that, because, one, it was a little bit my fault. I was kind of shitty at reaching out and saying, hey, by the way, we now are part of this company and we want you to come here. Because I think that, if you retain even half of that book, you've done a good job, because you've, some of those people that once you are at a different company, well, they're not used to your ways and your prices and all these things. Because the second time I did it, they, the company that I acquired, which was a much smaller company, they were used to, their pricing was just way, way cheaper. Like, I don't know about half, but just incredibly cheaper. And so when somebody called here and they're like, okay, cool, we're going to come to you. You have our art. That's great. And then we quoted it out. They were like, forget it. We're not ordering from you. And so, it was tougher than I thought it was going to be, because I thought there was going to be good things to come from it. But, I guess when, in your case, it was such a good fit. Like you said, they had customers that were looking for better quality, and you were looking for these customers, and it just sort of worked out. And I guess for some reason the pricing did too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it wasn't all great. It was super tough because, like you said, like once I got in a lot of their work, I realized, like, holy fuck, you guys are losing money on 60% of the jobs that you guys take in, because you're selling a 9-10 color on a 48 piece run, and you're charging the client $4.25 with the shirt. And I'm like, this is nuts. This is worse than contract printing. You're outlaying cash. You're spending millions of dollars on COGS. You're shipping this stuff. You're paying UPS. You're outlaying cash for months. You're giving people 150-day terms. By the time you get paid, you just lost your ass. And so it was tough. I mean, it wasn't, all great. It was definitely, an eye opener in terms of, trying to navigate some of their business, but, I worked through it, and, overall it ended up being good. It ended up giving me the platform to scale to the point to where, I gotta do some of the cool R&D stuff. I gotta, start working, like we had one project that was, a clothing line for Costco. That was super fun to work on. It was every single shirt we had to put foil on it. They'd order 40,000 shirts at a time. So like getting projects like that was.
Why was Costco getting shirts with foil on it?
I mean, it was, so they were all for, like, the demographic was women 50 years and older. And they were like flower designs.
It had to be bedazzled.
Yeah, it was all yeah, exactly. Okay. So, I mean, it was fun with some things was challenging, but it really gave me that platform to, scale the company to another level. Which, looking back, like, I think a lot of, the people listening to this now that, they might have one auto or a manual or a couple autos. And, I think the years that I made personally, like my company did the best, I had 2 autos. When I had 5 autos, like my top line got way bigger, but, the amount of, like, we'd have to have a small army of temps come in to get some jobs out the door. And like, you just don't account for shit like that. You don't account for having to hire 20 people just to get like a big order out. And by the time you really, factor all your costs, you just lost money on that order. Mm-hmm. And
it's like money changing hands. Yeah. Money changing hands isn't the same as actually making money.
Bigger isn't always better, man. Like it's tough. I mean, if you find a sweet spot that you're comfortable in, and then plus, I mean, I bet you had more headaches too. You have more headaches, equal amount of profit. I mean, how is that worth it?
Well, it's like and I probably did a really shitty job of like, hiring people and, kind of figuring out who to have. But, like when you go into your work and like you go into the bathroom and you see like a couple shooters behind the fucking toilet from a dude that's like getting drunk fucking on his little bathroom break, it's like, this is bullshit I don't want to deal with. Like, like there were lots of those instances of like, I feel like I'm running a fucking daycare of adults versus a really fun print shop, where when I had 2 autos and 10 people, like the culture was funner. It was all around. It was better. Like when we had a 5,000 piece order and we crushed it and we made a good money and I could give everybody like an extra $500, that makes their day. Right. Yeah. But when you have a shop of like 60, 70 employees, that shit's just not happening. Right. You can't give 60 people fucking $500. So for me, like looking back at it all, and that's kind of where I'm at now is, so I scaled the company. I think in 2017, that's when I sold DPH. So everything was going really good. Like we were, really profitable. Like we had good clients. And then one day, like I had a couple of guys show up and they're like, hey, we're interested in equipment. We just talked to a guy named Jeffrey Paul and Nick Wood up at Ryanet, and they told us to come see you and talk to you about your shop. And like, I really, really, really like, this is one thing to this day, I respect. I don't know if you guys know Jeffrey. So he worked for Ryanet and Ryan, several years. Like he really like helped. He got all those big deals done. Like all the, I worked really close with Jeffrey on a lot of those. But one thing that, I just respect him and Nick so much for was the guys that ended up buying DPH from me. They called to buy equipment from Ryanet. Like they had cash just to go buy a bunch of presses, dryer, like a whole fucking shop. They were ready just to start a shop. And those guys were like, before we sell you equipment, we want you to go, like, we just want to make sure, like maybe Danny could start doing some work for you guys. Like, we don't feel like you guys should just, your guys.
You don't feel like you should go balls deep.
Yeah. Like we're like now, like I see all these deals that are put together and like I've consulted on some of them where people are buying shit that it's like, why the fuck are you selling people that? Like companies all over the place are just taking advantage, like not just one company or two companies all over, they take advantage of people. Right. And that pisses me the fuck off. Like if you don't need something, they shouldn't sell it to you. Mm-hmm. Right. Like you shouldn't buy a fucking 40 station oval if you're printing fucking one color prints, right? Like you just shouldn't do it. So I really respect Jeffrey and Nick because they told these guys, like, just go talk to Danny, let him do some work for you guys. You guys are not ready to buy equipment. So they showed up. I started doing some work for them. Like, a little bit of time went by and they were like, have you ever thought about selling your company? And I was like, no, I've never thought about it, but I mean, it probably makes sense because like I literally just fucking had to deal with a situation last week that I never want to deal with again as like a business owner. So this is great timing. Like if you guys want to buy my company, sure, make me a fucking offer. So literally the next day they came in and they made me an offer to buy just the whole company. And
like you just walk away, they take over.
No, like part of like, of course, like they wanted to keep me on because, like they could recognize when they came in, I was very instrumental in like the way the company runs. Like mm-hmm. I like to get on press, right? Like I don't like to do it every day, but I like to go like, wash some screens. I like to fucking like, that's just who I am. Right?
What were you doing at that stage? Like you weren't running a press. Were you just kind of like overseeing everything?
Yeah, I was mainly like, so I think a lot of shops, they kind of need this position. I always call it like the print engineer. So it's basically like the person that like you kind of work with clients, you work with the artist, you know how to separate, you're teeing up jobs on the press. Like we all know that how many times does a job get up on the press that like it would run a little bit better if you swap this color from, 3 to 6, or you had a flash between this or this, or, you had 30% clear in this color, or, there's so many things.
Right.
So like my thing was kind of like being that guy that caught all the problems before they were a problem.
So you were like the variable wizard.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean,
let's just call it variable wizard.
So like I would kind of like engineer all the jobs. I would SEP all the jobs. I would tell the designers, like, make sure you call out these mesh counts. This blank is going to come in and I know it's going to be a fucking job that needs a migration blocker. So like I would catch all those things before they would hit the production floor. So and then I would deal with, a lot of like sales stuff. And I was kind of like the the guy that connected the front of the house to the back of the house, right? So like if sales reps had questions like, hey, can we do this technique? Instead of going and asking like the production manager or a printer, they would just come to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I handled just a lot of, you know, I guess making the floor efficient. And then I worked on like R&D projects.
And you at the time had hired for like accounting roles and payroll and all that kind of stuff. You had somebody that was handling all of that.
Yeah.
You weren't doing any of that.
No, at this point I wasn't doing any of the stuff. So, I mean, I was doing a little bit of it, I guess. I was still doing a lot of like the hiring, firing, the HR bullshit. But in terms of like that type of admin stuff, no, I was totally peeled out of that. Which, I mean, that's really what I wanted, but it was still like, you know, I needed a break. So when they came in and they offered to buy the company and do all that, and, you know, that was fucking awesome for me.
And you agreed to stay on for how long?
So I agreed to stay on. I think it was 5 years, 4 or 5 years at the time. And I mean, it was like a pretty good situation for me. I mean, everything was running like super good. I ended up leaving it was probably, God, when was it? I left to go take an opportunity because COVID hit us at DPH. And when COVID hit, like we had, I want to say it was like fucking $800,000 worth of orders canceled the week COVID hit. So it was just like gnarly. Like we were on our back. The guys, I guess I should rewind. So the guys that I sold the company to, they ended up, they have their own clothing line that they make. It's really, really similar to All Made. And they've been doing it for like over 10 years. One of the partners, he had a master's in sustainable, apparel manufacturing, super, super intelligent. The other partner was a really, really just good business guy. Super smart, like just two awesome dudes. Right. So they came in, they were the guys that ended up buying DPH from me. Cause I was just so, you know, like it was a really good fit for us because I was really good at printing. I was really good at running the shop. They were really good at sales. They were really good at developing brands. It was just
tough
like
for me though, even like, I don't know how I agree. Like if somebody came along and they said, hey, Andy, I think this is going to be a great fit. We'll give you a ton of cash for this place right now. And we want you to stay on though. That would be the struggle, I think, because I'm so in control of my destiny here. Like I'm in control of the stuff that happens here, you know? And so I'm assuming they paid you well. And so here I'm going to sell this place. I'm going to draw a salary, but then I'm going to have a boss, I suppose. Like I have these new bosses and that can go, I guess, one of two ways, you know, and be really, it would be kind of, for me anyway, it would be a big challenge because part of what I love about having Shirkong is just that it's mine, you know, like it's my small business. Sure. Like I work for all these employees, my team here, and it's my job, my role now is to help support them. And like you, I like to get on the press and I like to wash some screens and I like to do that sort of stuff too. But for it to go away as far as like guiding this or being the leader anyway, you know, yes, I would love it in that I wouldn't have to deal with all of the shit, you know, a lot of that shit. It's not my problem anymore. But I would also, I don't know if I could stay. Like if it wasn't mine, I don't know if I could stay. I would. Yeah, but that would be the toughest part.
It sounds like in Danny's situation, you kind of have like a 3-way split of respect where it's like you're the master printer, the other guy's the master businessman, and the other guy is like in the know-how of the materials and everything.
Were they there day to day though? Or did they somewhere else, or were they there like at your?
No, they were there, and like honestly, like it was a great situation because you know, like Dylan said, they. Like the respect that we had for each other, they never fucking bothered me like at all. Like,
right, they're like, I don't know jack shit about printing. Why would I get in his way?
Exactly. Like they tell everybody, like, we don't even know how to turn the fucking machine on or put a t-shirt on a press. Like we don't care about what goes on back there as long as we're meeting our deadlines, we're shipping, our, reject rate is low, like everything's running smooth. Like they didn't give a shit. And
but if you went to them and said, hey, we're hurting right here and I need to buy a new 14 color or whatever, then they said, okay, fine.
And fuck yeah. It was like, and that's what was even cool to me was like, when I ran the company, I was always like so conscious about
second guessing everything.
Yeah. Or just like our consumables and stuff. Like we'd mix up like a gallon of ink, or like I would mix just enough ink for the job, right? Like when I was the one writing the check to the fucking ink company every single month, I'm like, I got to keep this like tight as fuck. Like I can't, like if I might recycle colors just cause I know then I'm not having to fork out more money to buy that mixing component. Where when they took over, it was just like, hey, fuck, we need to mix a gallon of ink for, so it took off so much pressure.
That's the worst. That's like the shittiest thing about having employees that it's not theirs. It's not their stake. They're like,
exactly.
Not my fucking money. And they're like, oh, I got to make this, or I'm going to use this much tape or whatever. They're like, I don't give a fuck. It's not mine.
Exactly. And now like,
I love how you immediately flipped that coin and you were like, not my fucking business anymore.
I mean, and no disrespect, like I didn't take advantage of it, but at the same time, it was like,
no, but it put a smile on your face. You got to do it.
I did a ton of flocking, right? Everybody knows DPH. Like we did so much flock, and I never had the flock vacuum to like finish the shirts. After you vacuum them on press, they go through the dryer, then you really need to like finish vacuum in a separate machine. Like the day that they bought the company, I went to them. I'm like, hey guys, we got to buy this. We got to buy this. We got to buy this. And so to me, that was really cool because honestly, like I was spending somebody else's cash to do things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And improve the shop too.
I would love to do that right now.
Yeah.
Imagine, Andy, if we just had someone that we could just be like, I want this. And they're like, all right, fuck it.
And that's like, so that's kind of what led, and that's even what led me to go work for Liquid was, I sold DPH. I was there for, 3.5, 4 years, COVID hit. And once COVID hit, like it put us on our back and the whole business model just totally changed. So my partners there, like they're fucking, like they are extremely intelligent dudes. Like they could pivot. They can figure it out. Right. So they totally pivoted. They ended up going into another, they worked out some sort of, business deal with one of their clients that like literally it's scaling their company like crazy. So like when I sold it, their building now is like 35,000 square feet. When I talked to them last week, they're trying to get like 115,000 square feet facility now. So they've scaled through COVID now. Like really, really good, crazy, really good business guys.
So you're not involved in that at all anymore?
No. So I'm not involved in that anymore. And really like, if they need like any sort of external consulting, I help them out with stuff. Like I'm going to start doing a little bit of printing for them on some of their, specialty projects and stuff like that. But their model went from like the one business partner is just all about like volume, right? Like he understands that for their model, if they want to make money, it's all about volume. And to me, that was kind of tough for me, right? Like I'm not like a big like volume push. Like I got to be proud about what goes out the door.
Yeah.
And like if shit's going out the door, that's just like you got to cut a corner here or there just to get it out. Like that's not really like that's not something that I like, right? And the model just shifted to like 4 color and less, and they're just so booked. Like you can't even walk through because there's so much product that they have to print and get out of that place. They're that busy. It's crazy.
And do they print on their own apparel?
Yeah. So they print on all their own apparel. So they make all their own shit, and they're probably warehousing like $500,000 worth of their own product right now. And they're, always bringing in new product. They're really good. Like they have a manufacturing plant in Guatemala, and then they have another manufacturing plant in, I want to say, India. And
so they're making really good margins if they're using their own shit.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing fucking really good. Like it's a really good model for them. But for like a printer and me, like it was a tough situation. Like I didn't want to just go be a part of a shop at this point that was just like, hey guys, we got to do like 50 jobs a day per press at 4 colors a piece.
Right.
Like I want to be like in a shop that's doing like hybrid and, new digital shit and just like the innovation. And
so is that why you went, you said when COVID happened, you went to Liquid.
So yeah.
Did you move, or did you do something remotely, or did you consult? How did that work?
So I took a job with Liquid, and I was traveling every other week. So I would leave on like a Sunday night, and I'd get out there, and then I'd stay all week. And then I'd fly home Friday night, and then I'd have a week. Then I'd have a week. What was your role there?
Like, what did you go do?
So I was their director of automation, which was I don't know how much you guys know about Liquid, but they're like pound per pound. I would say they're the best shop in the country. Like, so I think I've consulted for probably, I'd say 50 plus shops here in the States. And, that's why I was so pumped and excited about that opportunity, is because they're legitimately like what Josh has done out there. They're fucking badass. Like you'll go in, you'll see 15 automatics printing between 700 and 1,400 pieces an hour all fucking day long. And we're talking like high-end 16, 18 color work. We're talking like 10 color puff, prints over the zippers. Like they're really, really, really good out there. Like I give them a shitload of props.
Yeah, me and Dylan, he was at Printavo. He was a guest at Printavo's Print Hustlers, and Dylan and I sat through that. And he was like, when he was done, I was just like, I felt like the same way. I had that same thought, like, man, this dude's badass. I love some of his stories.
Yeah. Sure. So it was just like, it was like a golden, like a dream job for me, right? Like I get to go out there. It's one of the best shops in the country, and I get to try to make them better.
Sounds like a good fit too, because the way I remember it, Dylan, is this right? Josh wasn't a printer. Like Josh was on the front of the house side of things.
Right. The sales and business side.
Yeah. So he wasn't really a printer, and you
just got to go nerd out and figure shit out, which is what you wanted to do.
Oh, 100%. Like it was, and like I said, it was fucking awesome. Like Josh, his team, what they built, like I loved all of it. Right. But the big thing for me that I realized, so I've got 3 kids. My oldest just turned 11. I've got an 8-year-old and then a 6-year-old. So like going out to California every other fucking week, and like I'm missing all my kids' shit. Like my middle boy, he just got really big into competitive baseball, and like, I'd leave to go to California, and he's like, Dad, like I really want you at my baseball game this week. And I'm like, sorry, dude. Like, so that's where it just wasn't a great fit for me. Like I said, dream job. The shop is fucking badass. What those guys do out there is next level. It's, we were running, I can't really get into specifics, but like on average on their presses, we were running over 650, 700 pieces an hour, including setups on average, which like
I heard, is this wrong? Is this true that they have setup, like a setup person, maybe that sort of like what you described earlier, a print engineer, and then they have people that just load shirts. Is that how they run it? Like they're like, we run press teams here. So we have the same press team, press operator, press assist, sets up the job, runs the job, tears down the job. But I thought at that shop or at Josh's shop that somebody set up the job and a different person ran the job. Is that how it works?
Yeah. They definitely had that. So they, I mean, this really isn't like secret shit because there's a lot of shops out there doing it. But so like the kind of like the way that I set up so they have pods in their shop. They have 3 autos that feed a dryer, and each pod I want to say I'd have to go remember, it's either 15 or 18 people per pod for just like the press support. So each pod had somebody that was a mover, and that person to me is so important in a print shop. So the mover's responsibility is to tee up all the shit for the next job before the previous job is done. Right. Like, the inks, the squeegees, all the tools, all the garments, all that kind of stuff. So each pod would have a mover that would go tee all that kind of stuff up. Then every pod would have a loader and an unloader for the press, and each press would have an operator. So the operator was the guy that would like set up, and as the press would be running, he'd be like troubleshooting and diagnosing, watching screens, watching inks, carting inks back into screens, shit like that. And then every pod would have a lead. So like basically a manager. So in a way you would have 4 to 5 people per press in that facility.
It seems like the way to get it the most efficiently done though. Like if you really were focused on, quality and quantity at every press, you would want that many people.
Yeah.
You can't miss anything with that many people.
Well, and people may think that sounds crazy, but you're literally outputting twice or maybe more than what a single press operator would be doing, because if you're moving, like you said, there's a mover. If you're trying to go find inks ever, or trying to like clean a squeegee and flub bar because you don't have one, or wear my shirts, that kind of stuff. If you're wasting time doing that, well, then you're not printing shirts. And so it may sound crazy to have 5 people per press or whatever, but you're literally maybe triple, your output might be triple,
Oh yeah.
We were talking about that earlier in the year, and I tried it for like 2 months where I had a mover, and it was the best thing ever. Just having someone set up, tear down, like get inks, squeegees, everything you said, it was so much better for the guys on press. Like we got so much more done.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like in a big shop like that, it made it really fun because when you make a change that, you think is small, but like I've always said, seconds add up to minutes add up to days, days add up to dollars. And when you make one little change and you see it like start working, like, they're like, if you're in a big shop like that, they're predominantly plastisol. How long does it take to ink screens? So like we built a system to where all the screens were pre-inked before they get to the press. So like you literally don't have a fucking, operator, a loader, unloader dumping ink on each screen. Just making one change like that in a big shop it's mind blowing, how much time you save and how much dollars that actually equates out to.
Now that's something I wanted to get into is you seemed to at Denver Print House, it was all water-based, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I started, so that was kind of like, I converted to all water-based right when I sold the company. Because the guys that bought it, their brand was, similar to All Made. So they're making t-shirts out of recycled plastic bottles.
Right.
And I'm like, this makes no fucking sense for you guys to go to market with like a t-shirt that you're printing plastic on. Like you're taking plastisol ink and putting it on a shirt. That makes no sense. So just to really complete their brand story, I decided at that time, let's make the switch for that. That was kind of the big reason. And then the other big reason was just, I started to get into, more special effects, trying to print faster, trying to print, through like, 420 mesh and running like 120 LPI and like just totally stupid shit. And I realized that water-based is so much better for all of that. Like if you really want to, like the very best prints, the very best detail can come from water-based. so that's really what pushed me to, converting DPH to all water base. And so when I sold the company to those guys, it was right around like that time of virus. They did that deal at M&R where they printed like the wet on wet.
Yeah, it's dry to the touch.
Dry to the touch. And like, I was literally like, I walked out of there so fucking mind blown. Like, like when I was watching that, I was just like, and everybody knows like Beppe Quaglia, like he does amazing work, right? Like when you go see the stuff that Virus does, you're like, that's so good.
Yeah.
So, really just converting DPH to water base was those two factors, my partners at the time, and then just wanting to kind of push. I felt like I almost hit a ceiling with Plastisol, if that makes sense.
Was there ever a moment when you started to work with water base that you were like, this fucking sucks, I quit. Like I'm going back to Plastisol just because of how easy Plastisol is to work with comparatively. Did you ever consider just fuck it?
I'd rather know what your stance is now that you're not at Denver and you are going to do something new. Are you sticking with just water base or are you going to do both?
Yeah. So to answer Andy's, like there was a time before that. So before I did that, I converted, I think it was like maybe 2 years before that. I was like, I'm going to convert to all water base. I'm going to be like the first guy here that's just, really, I mean, I guess like Latitudes and Jamie, those guys should get a lot of credit up in Oregon because they were running a lot of, PVC free Nike programs and Michael Jordan programs and all that kind of shit up at Latitudes. So I want to give those guys a bunch of credit up there. But I was like, I really want to be like one of the first. And like, I dived in, I was like, I'm converting everything. And then like 6 months into it, I was like, fuck this. like the amount of product that you use versus Plastisol. Like I saw my consumable bills just going through the roof. And that was one thing. And then I had one order that I fucked up that I was running a blocker base and I think my printer overworked. There was like a white base and a couple top colors and he overworked one of the HSA colors. And I didn't know it at the time. And then the client got the shit. All the fucking ink came out of the shirt. It all washed off. And that was like a massive hoodie order for me, like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 hoodies. And I was like, fuck this. I'm switching back to Plastisol because like I just don't have to worry about, inner coat adhesion issues and, just weird shit that I wasn't really advanced enough or I didn't take the time to learn it. And there really wasn't good resources to, teach you. So at the time I switched back. And then when I sold and I went to Virus and I saw the shit that Beppe did out there. I was like, I'm coming back, I'm converting and I'm never going back. So that's where I was with that. Since I've started this new shop, I'm kind of running a little bit of everything, to be honest. So that's one thing. When I started, I had meetings when I kind of going back when I decided to leave Liquid just because, I miss being away from my family, my kids, right. Like that was fucking tough. Right. So I was like, I'm going to go back to Denver. I'm going to start like a smaller focused R&D. I can do some consulting out of it. I can do training out of it. It's going to be close to my house.
Max, 2 presses, a 2-press shop.
2 presses.
That equals happiness.
Max 2 presses, like max 10 people. Like it can be just more of like a fun thing for all of us. Like I had clients when I was at Liquid calling me up every day because DPH, they had so when they started to get really busy just doing their own shirts, they couldn't print for anybody else. So clients that, I had grown up with clients, right? Like these people, their businesses relied on the printing that I was doing for them. Right. And so when I was out at Liquid and DPH wasn't able to do any work for outside clients, they're calling me up like, Danny, our business is like fucked. Like, can you recommend a printer? Can you like, can you start another shop? And I was like, like, this is
quite
good
the
timing.
question. Like, hey, I know you're not doing this right now, but can you start a shop real quick so you can do some shit for us?
Yeah, exactly. So, it made sense for me to come back and, start, kind of just a little more focused shop. So I started having meetings with some of my, ex-clients, and I asked them, like, what do you guys want? Do you guys want water-based? Do you guys want plastisol? Do you guys want discharge? And it was a little bit of everything from all of them. So I kind of decided at that point, I don't want to I feel like it almost discredits what the value I can provide the industry if I just lock into one thing, or if I'm only using one person's ink or one, you know what I mean? So I kind of told myself, I'm going to use what is best for that project, what's best for that client. I think there's a lot of, good things with plastisol. I think there's a lot of good things with water base. I'm not pro really one or the other. I see. That's
where I stand. I do what's best for whatever that project is. Yeah.
I mean, personally, myself, if I'm going to go print, I fucking hate plastisol now. The learning curve with water base is really pretty steep, especially in this climate, low humidity, it's dry. There was a lot of learning curves, but I think just getting over that, it was super rewarding. And, the final product, I think, is definitely always a little bit better with water base if you can execute it right. But I mean, I'm open to all of it. I think the industry, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Most of the world is printing water base. Our country's predominantly one of the only ones using plastisol, and I don't know. Well, it's interesting to see where it's going to go.
So you left Liquid and you were you just walked into being I guess I'm going to start a new shop.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I had a bunch of people calling me up that, needed work done. And, I wanted to stay. I can't get out of this industry. I don't think I live, I fucking, I breathe, I wake up thinking about this shit. You know what I mean? I'm just I have passion to be a good printer. And, I felt like it keeps me relevant. And, having a small facility near my house, it allows me to kind of, keep doing the things that I want to do within the industry.
Yeah. So what steps did you take though, where you're just all right, I'm going to find a building. What equipment am I going to use? Cause it seems like you switched gears. So how did that whole thing come about?
So this is going to be, this might open up a can, but, so when I decided to start, obviously, I had a call. So there's one of the old print shops, or before I moved into DPH's building, that building, my family owns that building. And there was a guy that had I don't know if you guys saw on Digit Smith, I was advertising an 810 Sportsman. So this guy that was leasing this building for my family, he had a little, Sportsman, Sprint 3000 little print shop in this building. He called me up one of the weeks I got back from Liquid, and he's like, man, I can't hire anybody. I'm struggling so bad. I don't know anything about printing. I don't know what to fucking do. So I was like, all right, let me just come down. Let me see what is going on at your shop. I went down there, and he's like, it was such a fucking disaster. They would do one job. They only had enough squeegees and flood bars and shit to do one job at a time. So they would do one job, enough screens. So they would do one job, then they'd go clean them, reclaim them, coat them.
They only had enough screens to do one job?
Yeah, literally one fucking job. One job at a time. So they would do one job at a time. That's it.
So job a day then?
Yeah, it's one job a day. Sorry, my wife is here. She's waving at me. So yeah, they would do one job, I don't know, maybe one job every couple of days, because it might have been a fucking 6 color, and that took up all 6 of their screens they had. So they just had no clue how to run this place. And I was like, all all right, fuck, dude, you like, it's better off if you just like, I'll help you sell your equipment. I'll move my equipment into this space. You send me all your business and I'm helping you out. And I got my own shop here again. So it was like a good little,
that dude would become like just a contractor, I guess you're saying.
Yeah. So he's just like, he's one of my contract clients now. So we share the building together. He occupies the front of it. I occupy the back of it. And, so that's where I moved all my equipment and all that kind of shit in.
So this time around, you are going to focus on like the print engineering again, or are you going to do like the HR stuff, hiring and firing? Are you going to do, what's your plan here to set yourself up for like success and happiness and all that kind of stuff? Because now that you're here and you've had a shop, you sold the shop, you worked for that shop, you worked for another shop. I mean, this is almost like a dream. You know what I mean? Like if you could start a few shops and now
take the amalgamation of all the knowledge of all the right? Start up, build up, sell it, fuck ups, everything. You get to do it all over again. That's why I asked, why did you go with what you went with? And what are you doing now? I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely, I think, when you compile all those fucking years of, beating my head against the wall, working for people, working for myself, I'm finally at the place of knowing like, this is what I want. Like, this is the type of shop that I want to build. These are the type of clients that I want to work with. So that's kind of where I was at with that. In terms of equipment and, getting to where I decided to, make the shift for MHM, it was kind of it was a 2-part process. So, the first part that, I've always, kind of looked at MHM as like the fucking Rolls Royce. Like I probably would have probably ran MHM 6 or 7 years ago, but like I went to a trade show, I showed up at their booth and I think Hirsch was their distributor. And I walked in and like the distributor literally looked at me. It was like, what the fuck are you doing here? You should be at like the Lego convention next door. Like you're like a 12-year-old boy. Like you're not here to buy a fucking $100,000 machine. Get the fuck out of our booth. So I left their booth like, fuck those guys. Like I'll never buy a machine from them ever, just because of how Hirsch, treated me at that time.
Isn't that crazy how I've heard a lot of people say.
I've heard that so many times.
Like they didn't buy a certain brand press because of a salesman. They were there looking like, hey, went in to buy a gauntlet.
It always happens at trade shows. It always happens at trade shows.
Yeah. It's weird.
100%. Like I literally left Colorado. I remember thinking I checked the bank account. I'm like, holy fuck. I'm going there. I'm going to buy a press. I'm going to buy a DTS. I'm going to buy all this shit. And the first booth I walked into was Hirsch, and they just made me feel like such a little fuck. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm not buying one of those presses. But I always in my head, like I always appreciated like the engineering, like, when
they always have the thing
run,
where they put a quarter on it and it won't fall over when the press is running.
Yeah. They're just so smooth. And, I was so intrigued by, the pin system. So like even when I was working with Rock, like we tried to develop a pin system with those guys and it just like, we just couldn't really dial it in. Where I always thought like, if I could get this MHM system dialed in the way I think I can dial it in, it's going to be so much better because you don't have to introduce a fucking pallet to the press to set shit up. Like literally you just walk around the press, you clip your screens in and they're good to go. So the system, I was so pumped about it just from day one. So starting the new shop, that was like, they were always like in the back of my head. If I'm going to start, another shop, I've run M&R, I've run Workhorse, I've run Freedoms, I've run fucking Rocks. I've run pretty much everything but MHM. Like, and I really like to be credible, to be like really a print guru, you've got to be experienced on everything. And I really wanted to give them a shot. So that was kind of like the first part of it was
knowing, and it's not Hirsch anymore.
Yeah. And it's not Hirsch. And like, the guys at, SPSI and, they're like, I don't like, I'll preface this, like Ryan, Rock, all those guys like Bobby, Joao, Buck, like all those guys associated. I love those fucking guys to death. Like those rock dudes are like brothers to me. Right. But in terms of like me being a printer and like my loyalty is with the tool that's going to be the best for me. Right. Like that's one way that I look at it. And then, you know, just like, I felt like I almost outgrew like that culture a little bit. Like, you know, it's like, it's no disrespect, but like, I'm a fucking hardcore printer, right? I'm so about like the printing and like showing up to a trade show and getting to talk like print with people and like, you know, business and making our businesses better, where like, I felt like they're trending to like, you know, they care more about like the food trucks that show up and like the fucking rock stage that fucking bands are playing on. And like, I don't really give a fuck about any of that type of shit. Like, I just care about like printing and like making the print and like all that kind of shit fucking legit. So I hope those guys aren't mad at me, but like, I just felt like I kind of outgrew that. And when I started talking to like SPSI and MHM, like it reminded me of the old days of like being with Rich Hoffman and shit like that. And it was just like, there was no like smoke and mirrors of like being in the cool kids club. Like, you know, it's just like, these presses are fucking badass. They work. They fucking are amazing.
They don't need all the other stuff to make the presses good.
They don't need this like fucking rock show and fucking all this bullshit to like, you know, like that's just like, so for me, I kind of just outgrew that. And, you know, I got really like, I got super pissed when I had a client, like this was all, I don't remember if I was still at Liquid at the time or if I had already left Liquid. And I was kind of in motion of starting the shop, but I had one of my old clients call me up and they're like, "Hey dude, that new rock lab that thing's going to be sick." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like rock lab? Like
the Made lab?"
Like, yeah. So it ended up being the Made lab. And I was just like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, this is like a rock lab, like rock." And all those guys know that, you know, the value that I provided them, at least in my mind, was validifying and validating that their presses and their system actually worked, like, and worked to like the big dogs in the industry, right? Like when they were going to sell a 10 press package or 4 presses or 20 presses, or they were converting a big ass fucking shop. Guess who was like talking to that shop? It was me, right? And Jeffrey and like some of those guys. But I validated rock being like a legitimate press. And I felt like those guys knew, like I was always their guru. I was always the guy like helping develop designs and shit for their trade shows. And, you know, if their client had a problem, their client would call me up and I'd help work through it.
I think Dylan does too. We both feel like, you here right now.
You know, like it was just like, I felt like, so why am I the last person to find out that they're starting this R&D lab? And Rock is like, you know, they're fronting ovals and dryers and presses and helping, you know, it's like a dude like Lee. Like, I don't know Lee. I think he's from what I've seen, he's a great dude. Like, I love what he does for the industry. All that shit is rad. I think he's probably like me 10 years ago, right? Like all the shit that he's trying to go through now, I went through 10 years ago, and I helped Rock get to that point to validate all that shit. And then they kind of just like motherfucked me in a way. At least that's how I felt, you know, like they started this lab. It was your
experience.
Yeah. Like they started this lab and all this shit, and it was behind my back. So I was like, man, like if you guys are going to start a lab, you should at least like call me up and have a conversation and be like, hey, you know, like we know you're our technical R&D guy. Anytime we need help, we fucking hit you up. Anytime, you know, one of our big shops wants to fucking see a demo, we send them out to you. Like, but they never had those conversations with me. And like, I kind of just felt like stabbed in the back in a way, you know, like you guys should have just told me about that shit. So I was like, you know, you guys can go start your labs. You guys can go invest in all those guys. And like, I hit up Ryan. I was like, hey, I need a price on a press and all this shit. And I got it back and it was like, holy fuck, dude, I could buy anything I want. If I want to go buy an MHM is cheaper than this. So I was like, if I'm going to start another shop, fuck, dude, I'm going to go with what I think is the best.
Right.
Do you have any relationships with SPSI or MHM where you're going to be that guy for them? You know, the R&D guy, or your shop would be sort of like a shop that somebody could go out to and check out?
I mean, definitely. I mean, I feel like I don't really have any deals in place or anything like that with them. But I want to help them out. I get,
well, that's
like,
what you're into,
I mean,
regardless. Like, it's not even like a, what do I want to say? It's not like a sponsorship thing. You just want to dive into the equipment because you like the nerding and the technical side of it.
Yeah. And honestly, like, none of these fuckers are going to sponsor me. And like, I mean, that's cool. Like, I mean, I get it on one hand, but on the other hand, like, I mean, I've done a lot for the industry, right? Like, I feel like I've pushed it in a lot of ways. Like, even at the beginning of our conversation, you know, when I switched from M&R to rock, all that did was help everybody. Like, at the time, M&R was really pissed, but I mean, I think there's definitely things that M&R probably wouldn't have right now if rock didn't come to the States. Mm-hmm. And the same thing now, it's kind of like, that's what I want to do with MHM is I think bringing MHM into the forefront, or at least if I can bring it to the forefront, it's going to create competition and make everybody shit better.
Right.
So I don't know, me switching to MHM was a little bit twofold. Like, rock, like, you know, like I said, I feel like I kind of grew up. I outgrew that relationship a little bit. I love those guys. They're great guys, but I don't need to be like the cool kid in the cool group. Fucking, like, that's just not me. Like, I've never been that way. And I'm just a hardcore printer, and, you know, I just want to fucking print.
Amen, brother. What else did you get though? Like, in your shop, other than press wise, like, what else are your dream tools that you're putting in?
So right now, like, so kind of moving forward, I'm working one cool project I'm working on now is, you know, like, DTS is so key. Everybody knows that. Like,
I was going to ask you if you're going to get the laser or not.
So I'm actually working with a company in China right now on developing kind of my own laser that I'm gonna start selling over here sometime next year. Right now I'm running an Exile wax machine, which, if anybody out there has any questions on that, hit me up. I've had a bunch of people asking on that. But hopefully by the end of summer, I've got the new laser machine in my facility. Different than what Saudi's selling, somewhat similar technology, but definitely some differences there.
Well, I'll be hitting you up then, because I was going to hit them up. So
yeah, the guys that I'm working with, they've got 300, almost 350 of them out in the field right now over in Asia.
And you're trying to make your own version over here?
Yeah. So they had their version was a horizontal version. So basically, like, you know how an iImage is now, where you put the screen in, it lays flat. Yeah. That, you know, it takes up so much more space than like a vertical machine. That's exactly why
I want it. Yeah.
So the machine that they're developing for me is basically their horizontal machine in a vertical format, with a few tweaks on like registration and, you know, various like pen systems and stuff like that.
So why do you think that's going to give you better results, or it's going to be a better solution than what you currently have with wax? Like, why would you want to go to laser?
I mean, the laser technology, I mean, you know, there was a big like scare of wax shortage this past summer. I don't know if you had that, but there was one particular company that ran out of wax entirely. And the guys that had those DTS machines were on their fucking back. So that's one kind of lingering scare that I have in my head. And
just
another
buy 5 years worth of wax. There you go. Now you don't have to worry about it.
They were only allocating, like, you could only buy one box at a time. So they wouldn't let you do that. And then just the quality. I mean, you can get better dots, perfect dots, perfect lines. That was one thing, like when I was at Liquid, being the director of automation, I put 2 lasers in out there. It was cool. Like I got to work on all the automation that, is badass and fun. And, I know you just put in that blue water reclaim. Like I had Alex build like a whole fucking custom.
They have a massive one there.
Oh yeah. It's like, and that was fun working with Alex, like designing that. And, so that type of shit, that's really where I'm going with the industry is, like no disrespect to these other, like the guys, building DTSs now and stuff, but really outside of Exile, everybody's just buying a fucking kit, putting it together and then remarketing it. And like, I've been I think I've had 8 or 9 different DTSs in my facility over the years. And it floors me. Like when these guys come in, they install it and you're like, can you linearize this? And they're like, what's that? It's like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, we've
had that conversation before.
Like,
you have to figure it out on your own.
And another thing is like, there's not one company that pairs a legitimate reg palette or like press system with their DTS. Like the way that your screen goes into your DTS should mimic exactly how it goes into your press. And there's not one person that's like really kind of matched all that kind of shit up. And that's really what I want to do for the industry is, kind of give people the complete system.
So with ours, we use blocks, right? But with you, with MHM, it's pins. You're telling me that the Exile, when you put your screen into the DTS, it's not locked in pins? No. So ours is using pins. Like the biggest thing, like one of the biggest tips that I would give people that are using these DTSs that have the drums or the pusher frames. Mm-hmm. So like Joe Clark taught me 5 or 6 years ago. He would talk about shit that was so fucking over my head. It was ridiculous. But one thing that I remember we did a lot of, like, we figured out was for every 1.5 millimeters, basically every 1/8 of an inch that your mesh is elongated, that's 4 Newtons difference of, Newton.
You're talking about from the pusher frame pushing up on the mesh?
From the pusher frame. So if you have a pusher frame that pushes your screen out 1/8 of an inch, that just increased the Newtons 4 by 4. And I think that's really, so like when I would get my DTSs with those pusher frames, I would shim everything and I would build everything to where my pusher frame was not touching my mesh. If it starts interacting with your mesh, and this is kind of like a little bit of like the secret sauce of why, like when Rock would send people to my shop and I would do demos and we would have perfect fucking registration, it was because the little things, right? So like if you have a 10 color job and you're running 280 mesh on all your top colors, but you're running a, 200 base, that mesh, that 200 mesh acts differently on the pusher frame than your fucking 280 mesh. And if you have a mesh that's like 2 Newtons, like say your 200 underbase screen is 2 Newtons less than all your 280 top colors, I would increase our off contact by enough to compensate for that. And like people don't go that extra little mile thinking about shit like that when they're setting up a press or they're doing a demo for like a guy that wants to convert his shop with fucking 15 machines.
So is the whole idea behind the pusher frame to make it a flat surface, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's only for the guys that make the DTSs to protect their ass so the print head doesn't hit the fucking screen. If you have
they're raising it up enough so it's not.
They're raising it up enough so it doesn't have anything, and that's why I went to like the Exile DTS, because the print head is on its own axes and it's got a laser that senses where it's at in proximity to the mesh, so it shuttles over and then it moves the print head out. Where like most of the other DTSs, the print head is just stationary. It's just fucking stationary. So if you have a screen that, you know, is warped or fucking the mesh has got a corner that's sticking up or a piece of tape, that print head's going to hit that. On the Exile, it's got a laser that fucking reads that and it'll back the print head off, or it'll tell you. Yeah. So that's a big reason why I went with that DTS, is because you can eliminate the pusher frame entirely.
Smart.
So for all you guys out there that are running like M&Rs and Douthits and not Kiwo because they don't have a pusher frame, take all the tension off that drum as you can, and you'll see your registration get so much better. And then all your brackets, make all your brackets. Like they send that shit with like aluminum brackets, you know, so when you put a frame in aluminum, I mean, it has some flex, right? It expands, cold, it contracts, like it has flex. So put like steel brackets on all your shit and your registration will get way better.
Brackets, do you mean the blocks?
Not the blocks themselves, the brackets that hold the blocks. Like on your like on your Douthit, the brackets that hold the blocks are only like a 1/4 inch piece of aluminum. And when you put a frame in there, especially if you have tension on that drum, when the clamp comes down, it's going to shift that around just a little bit. Like a little bit in the fact that like your fucking design's going to be out just a cunt hair on press, you know, like, but it's out enough to where like
universal measurement.
Yeah. Like it's out enough to where with you go crack a micro, you might just fuck yourself to where you spend more time fixing it than,
right.
You know,
it's the little things.
It's
I like that pusher frame idea. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a meeting, but I don't know how much we can back off because I think it has to push it some, right? So you're just saying it.
It has to push it some. It's just way too much. Like, and it's way too much because all the guys that build them, they just want to protect. They don't want people to, you know, have a head strike. But if you're getting all your screens from like Frank and stuff, like his screens are badass to where they're not all wonky and fucking warped and shit like that. Like if you go into some old ass shop that has 12-year-old screens, yeah, you probably want more tension on that drum. Right. But if you have your shit under control and dialed, you don't even want that drum. Trust me.
Makes sense. So other than those two, is there anything else that you're adding that you're stoked about?
I mean, honestly, the best thing I think I've added is the dryer. So the Tasoma that I put in there is fucking phenomenal. Like, you know, I thought like the Sprint 3000 dryer was pretty badass. You know, Rich, I remember that was like his baby when he was designing it. Like one of the last things he did at M&R. And honestly, this Tasoma is just like the build quality, the options, like the way the belt tracks. How quiet it is, like the dryer. Like I never thought I'd be so fucking.
Is it gas?
Yeah, it's a gas dryer. And like the way you can clean it, the way it all opens up. And I mean,
I heard the way I think this is the same dryer. The way the belt tracks is that if it is tracking off a little bit, it actually, I think it has a laser too or something that it moves it pulls it so that it'll track, it'll shift the belt to go the other way. So it's always centered.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that real?
Yeah. No, it's real. There's a laser, and there's a pneumatic cylinder that, you know, it kind of drives these cylinders that always keep the belt tracking perfectly straight. So like their big thing was, or, you know, every shop that I've been into over the years, you see the fucking belts ripping because they're always, you know, pulling, they're tracking, you know, to one side or the other. And the way the belt track system on this is they give you like a lifetime warranty on the belt. They say the belt will never wear out.
So all I'm hearing from Danny is that the future of screen printing in every piece of equipment is lasers, like laser on the Exile, laser for exposure, laser on our belts, on our dryers.
There's some crazy shit. I mean, that was one thing that was super fun at Liquid was, you know, they've got probably like one of the biggest facilities in this country. And like we were going down paths of like all kinds of crazy automation, right? Like, I mean, all sorts of shops needing like, AGVs, like little carts that fucking take ink and streams to the press automatically, and like crazy, tech, warehouse running fucking automatically, ARS, systems.
Amazon shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's even some shops, like even out your way, like, I don't know if you guys have been to, like Adidas out there and some of those guys, but they've got some fucking cool warehouses and like some really, really good technology.
That's awesome.
So no, I mean, I'm excited to see, where the industry is going with all that. I'm hoping,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'd love to fucking get a DS4000 and hook up to this MHM that I've got. That's going to be hopefully one of the next things that I can talk my boy Peter Walsh and his team over there into doing. And, I think that hybrid technology, that's one thing I'm super pumped on. I spent a little bit of time down at Night Owls, which that's another thing. I know you guys asked, I got to put it out there, but the reason my company name is actually Daybirds, and it's Daybirds because Eric's a good buddy of mine.
Yeah. He hit me up with like 35 questions for you.
Oh, that fucker. No. So I told him, I said, if I ever get back into it and start another shop again, I'm going to call it, it's not going to be Night Owls, but it's going to be Daybirds. And I'm going to hire every single fucking employee away from you. And they're all going to move to Denver and work for me. And you're going to be left as the Night Owls down in Texas.
That's awesome. It's amazing.
So that's why we're the Daybirds.
And now your shop sounds amazing, but
it's not. It's literally like a fucking 4-car garage.
Well,
that's amazing. That's what you wanted. You wanted to go back to the roots of the two.
It's so perfect. It's so perfect though.
Exactly.
But do you have one of these?
What the fuck is that, Andy?
It's an auto luber.
I do not.
So
I have one of those in my room.
I knew I was going to set you up for one of those, but check this out. You know how when you go to lube your press, it's like, for one, you always...
It's what, like 2 pumps? You had to buy a fucking auto luber for that?
No, it's not 2 pumps.
That's what she said. 2 pumps.
What's worse is that it's always a mess. I never can figure out how those fucking things work. And with the Zerk fittings, like on our presses, it seems like you have to hold the end of the hose and then also try and pump at the same time. So it's like
you're setting me up for so many. That's what she said.
Shut up, Dylan. Right, shut the fuck up. But look at this. This thing, trigger. Boom.
You got
pull the trigger.
Remember when we were talking, Danny, earlier about people overselling people things?
Oh my, exactly.
That's 1000% what that is.
$150.
Too much.
The next question, I was going to get a Milwaukee because that's my battery system, but we have a Ryobi one here, and this was only $150. My next question is Dylan and I both are selling our manuals. Are you going to have a manual at your shop?
Never.
Good
like
answer.
It's just like honestly, I don't see the point when you're really dialed on your pre-press. You're like, I could set up an auto faster than a manual. So
that's what we were saying.
It's like, what's the point? Like, I mean,
I just got done telling him, I was like, if anybody here wants to print like one shirt for a relative or something, they're still going to set it up on the auto because it's easier than trying to set it up on the manual.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, like with the whole DTF stuff, really like coming, if you're doing one shirt, 20 shirts, like that's a pretty good technology will be a pretty good technology coming up. But yeah, the manuals, nah, like honestly, I think I've always had a manual typically in the shop and it usually just fucking sits there. It's like that's
what mine's doing right now.
Exactly.
Dylan, you said you had 35 questions.
I have so many fucking questions for you right now.
We'll see.
Opened it.
Half fucking Eric.
They're over half Eric, probably. Yes. He texted me and was like, "Hey, I just blew you up with questions." All right, let me read through these real quick. Hold on.
I gotta say, I fucking love Eric. He's just such a good dude that. I mean, if somebody like goes in and just works their ass off, it's that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, he's someone I like to bounce a lot of ideas off of. All right. right. So Gorilla Joe asks, in February, I have an install of a 16 color MHM. Is it going to make me want to go all MHM? And he has mostly all Anatols now. So,
no, that's a no brainer. I mean,
well, that answers that.
I mean, honestly, like an Anatol too, if anybody it kind of pisses me off. That was one question I was going to ask you guys. Like when you are online, what triggers you? And like one thing that triggers me is people that are talking shit on Anatol. Like I get that their fucking service was like trash or is trash, but they've built some fucking really good shit over the years. Like I remember going into a shop like 12 years ago. I had like a 12 color job and I didn't have a 12 color press. So I contracted out to these dudes that had a big ass fucking Anatol. And the dude's on his control panel, adjusting his squeegee pressure, adjusting all his shit from his control panel. And I'm like, to this day, you can't do that on most fucking presses. Mm-hmm. So like all these dudes that are online just bashing them, fucking, it's like, no, dude, they had some pretty cool shit. Just because they had some bad sales reps over the years and some shit like that, like give them some fucking slack. They had some cool shit.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Marcotte asks, what's the best advice you'd give yourself 5 years ago?
Fuck.
I love how you had to take a swig first.
Oh, man. I would say at that time, it was probably, like I said, I don't have any regrets, but my company got to a point where it became, I don't want to say mismanageable by me, but it became to where I wasn't like a great fucking at anything. Right. I probably would have told myself, just fucking stay right here. Don't try to keep scaling. Don't try to, grow this massive fucking shop. Just be content with 2 autos and stay there. So that's probably what I would have done.
Are you ready for the flood of Eric? First question he gave me was, how come he won't answer my texts? Second was, does he have headphones on for the interview? Third was, if you could only have pie.
He's only asking that because the last 2 times I went down to Houston, I got down there and I'm like, fuck, can I borrow some headphones from you guys? So yeah, he's just giving me shit on that.
He said, if you could only have pie or weed, only one, which one would you choose?
I mean, that's.
Can you have weed then pie?
That's true. That would be the ticket.
Right.
Can I have weed pie?
Right. Well, yeah. What, in your opinion, is the make or break thing professional shops should do?
I think one thing that I touched on earlier was just that person that's really kind of that print engineer. I think most shops that I go into, that position's almost non-existent. It really doesn't exist. And, most shops are relying on maybe an artist to develop print orders, sequences, understand different types of garments, different types of inks. And, I think you really need that person that knows or has their, hand around all that kind of stuff. That way, when shit gets to the press, you're not having the issues. Because we all know that's the only way you can make money is if your press is spinning.
Yeah.
I like that answer. And I would just say the number 2 right below that would be to develop SOPs. And because I feel like we're not mature enough or we're not professional enough here. And the main thing that's holding us back is just SOPs for everything. And so that's what we're kind of going after currently in this entire month, and to develop that. Somebody resigned, or they put in their 30 days, which I thought was really cool. Not just 2 weeks, but 30 days. He's been here a very long time and he's moving away. And I was like, well, 30 days, I mean, that works for us, but like, what are you going to accomplish in these 30 days? Why 30 days? And he says, well, I want to make sure that the transition's smooth, and my old, clients that I work with, I want to reach out to them, but also I want to develop SOPs for what I do, and I thought, like, hell yeah. I think that's what is going to take us to that next spot. Yes, I want somebody who is transitioning off press to be that role that you just talked about, like the print engineer that's going to sort of handle everything that's going on in the shop and problems to make it run smoother. But then the next thing to that, to answer Eric's question, would be for me anyway, SOPs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big, I love SOPs. It's something that I've seen in a lot of shops. It's just, you can develop them, you can implement them, but if you don't have somebody that's really, staying on top of it, it's hard to really keep it going. Especially like when I was out at Liquid, that's a good example. We had all the SOPs in the world, and I think they're really good for some things, but screen printing is such a, you got to think outside the box. When you start just boxing yourself up into this is the process and you can't bend those rules at all, you start to get into trouble too. And then also people, I mean, it's holding people accountable to follow that SOP exactly how it's developed. It's tough. Like for instance, they had a eco rinse out there. Right. And when I got out there, this thing was just it had dust all over it. It wasn't, working, blah, blah, blah. I tuned it all up. We put a couple parts on it. We got it really good. I developed an SOP, like top to bottom. You go in, this is how you turn it on. This is everything. I spent 2 days building recipes for all their mesh counts. Just really fucking dialing it in. And they used it for like 2 or 3 days. And then like 4 days, I go back in, they're not using it. And I sit down, I'm like, let's go back over this. And I just could never get buy-in from them. And in a shop like that, there's, it's just tough, right? Because when people are so used to doing what they're doing, they're set in their ways. And, the next thing you develop some SOPs that, break some of the habits that these people are doing. And it really like rocks the culture. And
that's interesting. I think that,
it's just tough. Like having an SOP for like how to turn on a machine, or like if your fucking DTS needs like a purge, having an SOP for that, like, of course, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But like having an SOP of like teaching somebody how to like, print or troubleshoot, or it's really fucking difficult.
All right. Next is, what is your favorite piece of equipment you've ever worked on or worked with? Doesn't necessarily have to be an auto, just any piece of screen printing equipment is your favorite.
Eric is asking this.
Yeah. I'm still going through Eric. It's like a book of Eric.
Knowing that Eric's asking the question, probably my favorite thing to this day is the M&R quick clamp. Like, I think that's been one of the most revolutionary products this industry's seen. To be able to build and take apart a squeegee as fast as that thing can do it.
Fast, yeah.
And I'm only saying that because I know Eric really fucking misses his.
Okay. I'm skipping a couple of his questions, but this one kind of intrigued me. How important are compressors to automatic printing?
That bastard. So he's only saying this because, I came in Monday morning and I had a 2,500 piece job that I had to get out on Monday. And I go into the shop and the fucking compressor's guts are like literally on the floor. This was this past Monday. And, to answer the question, it's
at your new place.
Yeah. My new place. So there was a compressor that was already there that the guy that, he has the space now, he's leasing the space. He had a compressor there. And I was like, literally that's the only piece of equipment I didn't put in there. And sure enough, it fucking blew up. So yeah, compressors.
You're saying the motor did, or the tank exploded?
No, not the tank, the actual motor, like the electric motor. So it's just like a 7.5 horse piston drive. It's in a shed outside, so you don't hear the thing, thankfully. But yeah, I got into the shop and, the dryer, the Tasoma dryer, it has to have air for the belt tracking. So I went to go turn on the dryer and it showed an alarm that there's no air. And I'm like, fuck. So I went out to the shed. I opened up the shed and the electric motor, the case is just split. There's like this fucking goop oil shit everywhere. I'm like, this is not good.
Did you have a backup?
No, fuck no. I didn't have a backup. So what I ended up doing is I've got a buddy here in Denver. His name is Sean. He's over at SC Shirts, to give him a shout out. He's been a lifesaver to me. Like Sean's got a little 4-color rock fit in his shop, really small. He's kind of like the fucking DTG guru. Super, super smart with digital stuff. And I met him maybe 2 years ago, and I go out to his shop. I help him print a lot. They're not very good screen printers yet. So whenever he needs like screens made or steps done or help with a job, I go help him. And so I called him up and I was like, hey bro, I got this fucking 2,500 piece order that needs to get done today. And he's like, get that shit over here. Let's go. So Sean, he's like a lifesaver to me. That dude has been, I've run some 5, 6, 7 color jobs on his little 4-color rock before I got all my MHM shit in. So wait
a second. How'd you do that?
So just like cutting and splitting squeegees and stuff. So, you're printing, luckily the artwork, lets you do it.
Allows for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, Sean helped me out. So the whole compressor thing fucking is key. All the shops out there, I know out here in Colorado, like if you get a variable drive screw, just like the credit that you can get with the energy company will pay for that compressor over like a year or two.
A base print shop that's going from manual to auto.
I think just start slow. I think with anybody that, going from manual, I think like when I listened to your guys' podcast talking to Lee the other day, I think Andy might've mentioned, it took at least a year or two before, the transition, you really start feeling comfortable going from, a manual to an auto. And I think the same thing is true with, water base. So going from, a manual to auto on water base is kind of the same thing. You got to just, I would say, take it as slow as you can, start with the dark colors on the light shirts, be ready to screw some stuff up. Pallet temp is really, really key. I would, suggest, making sure you have a way to monitor the pallet temps. That's kind of a make or break with water base on an auto. Unlike Plastisol, pallet temp is your friend. I like to tell my guys, we like to get them so fucking hot, we can't touch them. Like literally that's how we like to print water base, which is kind of, I guess,
well, isn't that a troublesome thing with the rocks because of the honeycomb pallets?
It is and it isn't. It's if you let them cool down too much, yeah. They cool down rather quicker than like, the M&R pallet, but not to the point to where it really should cause you problems. If it's causing you problems, you're slowing down too much. There's too much delay in what you're doing. Like water-based printing on an auto, you almost have to approach it like, a football team approaches the next play. You guys get together in a huddle. You guys kind of all huddle up. You talk about what you're going to do on the press, how you're going to approach the job. Once you fucking break, then it's go time. And you have to run that job. You have to have automatic printing with water base. I tell everybody you always have to have an extra hand. So you have to have somebody tending the ink on the press. That's a necessity.
Okay, good answer.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but I would just say take it slow. There's definitely a learning curve, but pallet temp is your friend.
Droplet Brands asks, when is Chasing Ink coming out?
I've been working on that quite a bit behind the scenes lately. Kind of like what you guys have been talking about with the whole education. And that was my really main reason for putting that together, was to be able to go into other shops and, provide a little bit of, my experience, share some of that, and then get kind of their take on things. And, I've got to the point where, anybody can come to my shop. Like, I'm a total open book. I'm so content with my clients that I have. I know they'll never leave me. So if people want to come to my place and learn, and, that's really what Chasing Inks was really developed for, was just to kind of be an open book and, give people that experience.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to come together hopefully sooner than later, but, just getting the shop kind of where I want it to get to, that's going to take me a couple more months.
I'm not familiar with what that is. What is Chasing Ink?
It was a YouTube show, right?
Not really it was just kind of a whole separate identity that I'm putting together. That's going to be, a lot of instructional videos, like getting into the more technical shit, not just no disrespect to all the videos that are out there now, but there's nothing that's like if you really want to be a better automatic printer, or you want to learn how to set up your DTS, you want to learn how to linearize it, you want to learn how to
you want to dial into the nitty gritty of that.
Yeah. That nitty gritty shit. There's nowhere that you can really do it. So to really kind of teach people that higher end of for me, the struggle was always it took me years to become a good separator. Right. Because there's where do you go learn to be a separator? Right. There's a handful of guys that have their techniques and they don't fucking share them. So you get YouTube videos of use the color range tool to pull it. That is fucking trash. Right. There's so many just YouTube videos out there that are so fucking bad. So fucking bad that it grinds my gears. So Chasing Ink was all about, putting something together to kind of, I don't know, tame all the fucking internet people that are talking shit on, stuff
somebody with some credibility talking about stuff that you actually want to hear.
I was talking to somebody, I think it was just yesterday, that how hard it is to become a good shop, because it takes years and years to become just a good shop, and to become great is even harder. And so it's sort of like what you're talking about, because there's a lot of information out there how to be good. And then through experience, you can be good, but then to take it to that next level, that next step of that, even to be great. And there's even books about it, it's tough.
It's funny. We talk about even with the podcast and stuff, is it's sharing knowledge stuff and all that. But it's exactly what you said, Andy, is it's most of it is just the general knowledge, or to be good and to, get good screens and to get all this other stuff. It's the stuff that you should do anyway, but it's the little things you were saying, even with the CTS of not having the pusher frames or whatever. It's just stuff like that. It's that's what takes you to the other level of I can register these so much faster or so much easier and stuff like that most shops aren't going to look into. Yeah.
I mean, it's you go into I don't know how many, every fucking shop I go into, their high end detail shit. They're we print this on a 305. And it's I look at that, and all the testing that I did over the years, literally hours and hours and hours of testing mesh, inverse tensioning mesh, just doing all kinds of different shit on Newmans with the mesh. And I learned that a 280 35 will blow the fuck out of a 305 34, a 305 31, a 305 40 all day long. So I feel Chasing Inks is a good platform for me to put a video together and show, hey guys, ditch the old 305. That's old school. Nobody should be using a 305 mesh. Just if you're printing a lot of certain stuff, you should be running thin thread, right? There's a place for all of that shit. But the information that's out there, I think, is so fucking bad, or most of it is so fucking bad, that I just felt Chasing Inks would be a good way to, not I know everything, but the shit that I tested, Like I've got a book that I could show you guys. I've got like almost 300 emulsions that I've tested. And like, I'm just like crazy shit. Like I would do shit, you know, I would put a fucking dual cure on this side and a fucking photopolymer on this side just to like try it, right? Just to learn. And if you don't do shit like that, you're never going to get to like that next step.
Here's the thing. I think most shops are just trying to survive. Like they're so busy. They're trying to get shirts out the door. They have all these orders and they have HR issues and they have customers that are upset and they're just trying to print. And they have times throughout the year, maybe where it slows for a minute and they're like, oh, cool. You know, I'm going to test some emulsion or something. But a lot of those times you just want to say, fuck it. I want to actually take a vacation, you know, instead of like going in and testing. I just want to take a few days off. And so most shops are caught up in the day-to-day of running the shop. And so unless they have that person that is like you, that extra person that is R&Ding stuff, you know, and just walking around and observing. Some days maybe just observe, just watch how the shop is moving and say, you know, this used to work, but now that we're doing this, that we shouldn't do that anymore. You know, and here's actually a better solution. And we need to buy this, and this, and then we're going to change this this week. Unless you have that person.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Like that's my role now is like, I'm trying to do like what Danny's saying is I'm just observing the way that we're doing things all the time. And I'm trying to find better ways to do those things. So like, I would be totally interested in learning those things so I can implement little things here and there to make it.
That's so hard because if you don't do that in the next few weeks, then you're going to be caught up in who knows what, you know, so-and-so might quit or somebody's going to be sick.
To do that shit.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, if you can hire them, then that's good, you know, but some shops can hire, or maybe if you do hire, they're not, they have to spend a year in the shop before they even know how your shop works, you know? And so I don't know. It's a challenge. It's always a challenge. And then you have somebody that's good that you're going to put on that role, but then a printer quits and then they have to go print, you know? And so, man, it's like, it's just a constant thing here that I always know that I want to improve certain spots. And I know that I have to work fast right now in this next month to get some of that done. Because before I know it, we're going to have way too many shirts to print. And our problem isn't going to be, oh, how can we learn this or that? Our problem is going to be, we have to print this stuff right now. And so, I don't know, that's part of the reason why we're eliminating a few clients, you know? And so it's funny, on this last podcast, I think we talked about, on a New Year's one, actually, we talked about how we're going to, you know, reduce a few of the clients and just that weren't a good fit. And I had a couple people, message me and say, hey, I know that's me, isn't it? You know, like, no. You're good. You're good. But, I don't know. It's like, it's real, like, you know, you're fine. Yeah. It's hard. That's hard as shit to be, to have somebody at your shop. It's like a dream to have somebody at your shop that's R&Ding, but it's really tough.
And I mean, I think that's really like, there's opportunities in the industry because we all talk about it. We all talk about the education piece. We all talk about like, you know, people being certified and needing all of that. And that's really kind of where, you know, Chasing Inks began, was just, you know, being able to provide some sort of credible, like documentation, SOPs, being able to, you know, there's guys that are kind of doing it right now, but it's just not, nobody's really been able to do it. So hopefully, you know, Chasing Inks can be a part of that somehow, somewhere. You know, I hope it's not like a press related thing or anything like that, because that's really, I think, what's kind of holding the industry back, in a way, is
too much loyalty to certain
things.
Things.
It's just like too much loyalty. Like, you know, it's like, if I really wanted to become like a master printer, I would want to go to like a school that had like a little bit of everything,
right?
You know, like, and I think that's my big push. And hopefully, like I said, Chasing Inks, we can kind of figure and navigate that somehow. Because is that
going to be like a subscription kind of thing, or is that going to be just like an open source thing?
Yeah, no, it's so initially right now it's good. The plans are to make it subscription based. You know, I've got a few different ideas with it, and it's going to tie into the, you know, the consulting that I do as well. You know, it's kind of like what you guys were talking about. If somebody can come just like set up your screen room to where, you know, it's fucking dialed and it's good, that's kind of what I want to do on other aspects, right? Like I can do it on screen. I can kind of do it on everything, but it's never really been done on where I think it's important. And that's, I go into all these shops that are, sim process. They got an artist that's separating it out. And then I see that job going back to that artist countless times for like a tweak here or a tweak there. And it's because there's just not that link of proper process and training through that entire, engineering steps to print, to mixing the inks right. And nobody's really going in and training people on a high level.
And I think also it's a problem that's compounded by, if you're not running sim process every single day, and that designer or that artist goes in and let's say something does need to be tweaked, like you said, if you're doing that job after job after job after job, and you're seeing how it looks on press after you're making those tweaks, then you get better. You have a chance to improve. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to do the sim process job this week, and then a few weeks later, I'm going to do another sim process job, you never have that chance to get really, really good at it too, just from your own experience, And so,
yeah,
I think a little bit of that's going on here actually.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just like, at DPH, we got to a point, like when we shifted to give you guys an example, when we shifted from plastisol to water base, I felt like I had the plastisol, like, sim process pretty dialed in, like our dot gain, everything we knew on press would, behave a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then when we switched to water base, and all of a sudden, instead of getting dot gain, we're getting dot loss. It was like, how the fuck do we re-engineer this? We're getting like all these reorders. So I had all these, like, I was printing tons of like racing car art, photorealistic skin tones, people's faces, band merch, all kinds of shit. And making the switch from plastisol to water base. And now our inks are losing gain versus, gaining gain, and the translucency is different. That was a huge learning curve, but I was able to build, algorithms into my fucking SEPs to where, like, we knew black gains or it loses 17% versus plastisol. So now when we have a SEP, we have automated scripts that account for that dot loss. So me being able to go into like an art department and say, hey, if you guys want to switch from plastisol to water base, this is what you should probably expect. And I think like chasing inks and, what I want to do on the consulting, it kind of ties into all that.
That's awesome.
So hopefully,
I hope you get it done, because I want to fucking sign up. So
yeah, me too.
I'm super close. And a big thing was like, I want to do a shirt of the month with like a really cool technique that's, it teaches people how I did that. Right. Like you could go to the store, get a shirt in the mail, or go to a concert and get a shirt that's like, fuck, how did they do that? That thing's like really cool. So part of that shirt would be, this is exactly how I did it. Like down to like, guys, my EOM on this screen's like 8% versus 20%. Like, you know what I mean? Like getting into that really nitty gritty detail.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, I love it.
So hopefully, I mean, I'm really close. I got to make a couple hires at the new shop just to
like what, like next Monday or?
No, I mean, I'm hoping to have it off. Like, so I'm spread so thin. Like I told you guys, I have 3 kids. I coach 2 youth baseball teams. That takes up like all my spare time outside of fucking work. So I'm a little thin. I got to get a couple hires made at the shop. Once I do that, then hopefully I'll get this deal going. Cause I mean, I think the industry could use it, and it's just something that I've always wanted to do. And
my thing is, I don't really care who does it. I just want it to happen. I just want more and more education out there on topics that I'm actually interested in, not like how to code a screen, or it's just like the same shit over and over again. I keep seeing it's just the same basic. It's like, dude, I really want to learn the nitty gritty of everything. Like I want to dive in more. Oh no, I mean, I was so pumped too. Like when M&R, they named the, that innovation center, the Joe Clark deal. Yeah. And I was like, this is finally it. Like, this is finally where they're gonna, like, Joe was all about innovation and helping. Like he would help fucking anybody. Yeah.
right? Joe was he was badass with that. He was so good. And I was thinking like, this is finally what the industry needs. But then you sit back and you look and it's like, if I'm an MHM guy or I'm a rock guy or an Anatol or I got a fucking Brown, like whatever it is, like that's cool. Like that makes those people money. Those people probably think that press is the fucking best thing in the world. But if they go to M&R to learn the joke, like it's just going to be all about like, they're going to leave there with the M&R sales pitch. Like you go there to the virus thing and the next thing you know, you're on a tour of the facility, which like, that's cool. I don't blame them. But at the same time, it's not all about like the hardcore learning, fucking education. It just,
it's also hard to be unbiased when you're at M&R's facility.
It's so hard. Like, and I get that. And I think that was, I was just so pumped with the whole Joe Clark thing. Cause he was one of the dudes like him and Kudre and some of those guys. They taught me fucking just reading some of their articles. Like the people out there that want to elevate their print game, go dig up some of their fucking articles, literally go dig them up. And, you'll learn, like, I remember in my plastisol days, I was having a ton of problems with like build up on the back of screens and like understanding all that. And, I got linked up with Joe and he really made me understand like the phase separation of the ink and why the ink separates and why half of it's left on the back of the screen and half's in the garment. And so I encourage people to go out there, read all those fucking articles, soak that shit up, and then go make it work in your shop, right?
Yeah,
like go test it.
Don't watch Yellowstone. Just watch this kind of stuff. Okay. Fuck Yellowstone.
We were going to tell Danny that this whole episode was going to be talking about Yellowstone.
We were joking that when you came on, we're like, hey, I know you thought this was about printing, but we're just going to talk Yellowstone.
I'm so bummed. Like the season, like Sunday nights, that's what my wife and I look forward to fucking watching.
Oh, hell yeah. He's watching it too.
So, like,
fuck yeah.
I mean,
are you caught up?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're all caught up.
I'm on season 4, episode 7. Andy, you're on what?
Season 3, almost done. Like maybe one episode left or something. So yeah.
No, it's such a good show. I mean, I love it. The only bad thing is like my wife wants me to be a fucking cowboy now, I think.
Yeah.
And like there's like all these expectations that those guys are just like
I don't think you're gonna get it.
Coolest fucking dudes in the world. And
yeah.
So yeah. No, we watch it every Sunday for sure.
I mean, you're in Colorado, you're close. You could probably pull it off.
Yeah, no, I know they film it like out in Utah. And my wife has family. We were out there over Thanksgiving and we drove by like, some of the areas they were filming at and shit.
It's so beautiful out there. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah. I saw you were at that one, what was it? Prodigy, or there's a couple shops out there.
I went to like 4 or 5 out there and I went to Black Rifle. It was just so nice in Salt Lake. I was like, I definitely want to come back here.
Yeah. It's a nice area. I don't know. I like it because I'm like a fucking Vegas junkie. And like I was telling my wife, it's like a 4-hour drive to Vegas, like super quick. We don't even have to get on a flight. Just go right to Vegas.
It was like we were out there and me and Brett were just talking and we were like, I was like, I think Skinwalker Ranch is out here where like people see all the alien shit. I was like, let's just go. And we looked it up and it was like a 4-hour drive. I was like, that's cool. We'll be there by like 2 a.m. Let's go. I was like, we just wanted to do it so bad, so we're going to do it next time.
Yeah, it's pretty dope out there.
Well, Andy, do we do questions for us and shop hacks? Do you have any questions for us, Danny, that we maybe could
try and answer?
I mean, I feel like
we should just ask you some more questions.
I mean, I honestly, I suck at asking questions.
Do you want to talk to us about feelings? Do you want to talk to us about Yellowstone?
How about let's not talk about Eric because we talked about him too much already.
We could talk about in Yellowstone how when Hirsch didn't talk to you and they made you feel bad, it could be like the scene in Yellowstone where Monica was in that shop and she was looking at some things, and then they're like, I think they said she was shoplifting.
She shamed her.
Yeah. So Beth came in and just like fucked the whole store up. Like you could do that. You could do that at the show. Yeah. That would be like a pretty women moment almost.
Oh yeah. Hirsch has some fucking nice embroidery equipment over there.
Taught him a lesson.
I still can't believe that. Like over the years, all the shit that you see at trade shows and, I don't know.
I'm not going to name names, but I've heard from multiple people, especially women, that they go in and they go up to a rep or whatever, and they say, hey, like you said, like I literally have enough money right now to buy an auto, a dryer, fucking CTS, whatever I want to buy. And they just, because of the way they look or the kind of person they are, they write them off. They're like, there's no fucking way you're going to buy anything. You're just going to sit here and kick tires. Like, and they brush them off. But the truth is they have a fucking checkbook right there where they're like willing to write you like a $150,000 check to buy this stuff. And it's just because you judged the book by its cover and didn't dive into what that person actually wanted to talk to. So I feel like that's an issue that needs to get fixed.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy. One thing I've learned consulting in the industry, you know, I've met so many amazing people that started, like, you wouldn't even imagine how some of these people start, right? And how they figure it out. Like, you know, one business, like, you know, these people were like 18, 19, 20 years old. They learn how to market online. And the next thing you know, they're selling $500,000 worth of shit on Facebook a month.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now they need to fucking build a production facility to, you know, vertically integrate and produce all their shit they're selling.
And they've got the money to do it.
And they've got the money. And it's just like, it's mind blowing where, you know, there's a lot of guys out there, you know, me included, that were just like fucking grinding. And the first 4 years you look back and you made like 12 cents, you know, and, you know, these people have like an idea, and then the next thing you know, they got 10 million. Exactly. It's nuts. So I don't know. That's one thing that's been really cool for me, is just seeing, you know, all the different walks of life that come through this industry, and, you know, being able to appreciate that. And I think when, you know, one thing that, you know, Ryanette's done really well, and I give them props for, is, you know, all the classes that they were doing. So I was doing some classes for Ryan and Ryanette for, you know, a year or two there. And it was just really cool to see people that would come, you know, hey, I want to learn how to screen print. And a year goes by and they send you an email or they call you up with like pictures of their new shop that they've built over that year. Yeah. And you're like, fuck, dude, that is cool. Like, you know, that's a whole nother layer of, I think, why we should all do this shit. Right.
And people do it for a lot of different reasons too. You know what I mean? They're not just doing it to get anything and everything customers. Like, some people are like, oh, I'm doing it for this charity thing, or I'm doing it for this thing. And they just like grow it into this whole niche market.
Yep.
All right. Do you have any shop hacks that you want to talk about?
Fuck. I feel like Eric's probably stole them all from me now.
Well, between
I don't really, I mean, I haven't listened to all the episodes, so I don't know what's been talked about, what hasn't been talked about. So,
all right, give us whatever you want.
Fuck. Good.
Is there anything like super simple and stupid that most people don't know or don't do that you know of?
I mean, there's so many things. I think it's hard for me to name one. Yeah, I think just the general problems are people they don't understand like the basic fundamentals of mesh. Like, you know, like everybody, like you get online, everybody's like, how many dots per inch can that mesh hold? And that's how they like decide that mesh. But the very first thing that I think of when I select a mesh is, how does it interact with the ink? Like, that's the very first, very basic thing that people, I think, when selecting a mesh, they just don't take into account, is how does the ink interact with that mesh? And then behind that, how does that ink interact with the garment? And then after all that is, how does the mesh interact with the design?
So you're saying like, let's say you're comparing fleece versus just a t-shirt. So you're going to choose a mesh we do here anyway. We choose mesh based on that decision alone. Like it's going on fleece. I mean, that absolutely has to play into it. Even if we have a lot of detail, we have to account for, wait, this is going on fleece. And
Exactly.
what's worse is when it's going on both, because that happens almost regularly here now too. And you have to then maybe pick a middle, like, wait, we're going to print 100 t-shirts and 50 hoodies. Well, we have to make it work on both. It can't just be for one.
Yeah.
So that's tough. So is that what you mean? Some stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, definitely that plays into it, but it's just, like you'll see like helping some of the local shops in the area that I've helped, they'll have like, a shimmer and they want to print that ink. They've got like a really high detail design with the shimmer. And it's like that particle size is never going to go through that mesh. So the very first thing that we have to think about is how that ink interacts with the mesh. And I think that's just one thing that's been missed in a lot of shops is like, you'll go in and you'll see people trying to print fleece with a fucking 196 standard thread mesh when, they should be using a fucking 150 thin thread because the flow rate of the mesh is not going to be able to push that ink through it. Like it's just not even going to happen. So they're going to drive all the ink, all the mesh down into the garment, lift it back up and be left with a rough ass print.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I see a lot is just basic, there's just not enough standards, I guess, in the industry or people that have the knowledge of, how to apply that. I don't know.
And then also train your sales people too, because sometimes we'll take in a job that is, like you said, a shimmer and that does have detail. And now all of a sudden we got a fucking problem, like how do we make this work? And so, and it's the worst to call a customer back and say, hey, by the way, we can't do that, so to have everybody trained in on that and to know that this is problematic, this job that we're looking at right here and shimmer won't work or will work. You know what I mean? Those are tough. I mean, that takes time and you have to have experienced people at your counter.
Yeah. I think it goes back to that engineer too in your shop too, because when that job gets the press and your press guys get it and they're like, well, why the fuck did you use this mesh with this ink? Now we got to tear this down and we just wasted 20 minutes and we got to go scramble to get another job. And, it creates a lot of, slowdowns. So that's one thing I see. I think a shop hack in general, just go outside the box. And like I said, break the rules. Like, I mean, the industry is so penetrated with like guys that, became a sales rep at an ink company or a distributor or something that used to be a printer for some guy that taught him some really bad shit. And when they come into your facility and they're like, hey, use this, and this is how you need to use it. I would take what they say and, apply it, try to do it, but don't just take that and as the end all. This guy knows all of the shit. And, that's one thing I've learned, like every single shop out there is differently. Like everybody, you could have two identical presses go into shops, on the East Coast and the West Coast, and how those presses act in those environments is just different. So I think, just overall, you got to work hard. You got to put in the work yourself and, take what the experts say and, test it and just kind of do your own thing. I mean, like I said earlier, a lot of the things that I found out were, I think probably a lot of the new people that are listening to this, they probably think if you're printing on an auto, if you want to get a more opaque white, you need to slow down your squeegee. And like, that's just a fundamental flaw that this industry has in their head. Like if you want more opacity and you have your shit dialed in, the faster you can run your squeegee up to the speed limit, like the technical speed limit that the squeegee could go, you're going to get a more opaque print. And like for so many years, I didn't understand that. I would always slow my squeegee down, add more pressure, And it was like, I just didn't understand a couple of the other variables. When you actually have your shit dialed and you start running your squeegee faster, you'll have a more opaque print. But people just, they don't process that.
You just got to test what works in your shop.
Yep. Have you guys ever, has the magic eraser been on the show yet?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one that saved my ass so many times with, haze instead of fucking using some dehazer.
Water-based haze.
Yeah. Water-based haze. So yeah, why don't you guys use more water-based or go to all water-based?
I use
or
both.
how much water-based do you guys use?
Not a ton. We're doing, like I said, it depends on the job and depends on what the customer's looking for. We'll go back and forth, but we definitely use more plastisol than water-based, but we do use water-based when necessary. But Andy, you're not using any water-based?
Yeah, my answer is 0 right now. And that is mostly predicated on the fact that we have such a wide variety of materials we print on. And then also I've never had 6 months to go and figure it out. It's just shirts out the door and always trying to solve problems. I'm a shop owner that is really in the business, and I'm working on getting at least 1 foot out. I do a decent job delegating. Obviously we've got a bunch of people here, but I don't know, there's always something. And so I end up doing that. And instead of, hiring somebody to do it, and I haven't done it yet because I've actually had people in place to do that R&D stuff, but then COVID really, if I want to blame, look, I'm going to accept no fault and I'm just to say it's all COVID's fault.
Right.
We do that.
COVID fucked everything up. God, COVID sucked.
Yeah.
It sucks.
All right. You want to do some quick takes, Andy?
Let's do it.
All right. You go first.
I am first. Yeah. So what is one thing you need every day?
Definitely my weed stick.
100% weed stick.
Yeah, well, he's in Colorado. We can do that. We go to Illinois and then illegally, well, I'm not going to, this is being recorded. Never mind. We don't do anything. Next question.
We could retake that one if you want.
Nope. What shows are you watching? We heard Yellowstone, but are you watching anything else?
Right now, that was the only show that we were watching. No plans to watch anything else right now. I think there was what I heard. Yellowstone had a
1883.
Yeah, 1883. So we might try that, but honestly, my schedule is fucking so packed. Like between the baseball team coaching, I get off of work, I come home, and then every single night, one of my kids is doing something.
Right. But you have that Sunday night where Yellowstone works out.
Yeah, exactly. Sunday night's perfect. So I'll have to figure out a new Sunday night replacement.
I've got one for you. And unless you've already seen it, and that is Ted Lasso.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's good.
So yeah, it's not on Netflix, but you can get it on
Prime.
What is it on?
It's
Apple.
Yeah. Apple.
It's an Apple show.
Okay. Ted Lasso.
Andy, you next.
Oh yeah. So ski trip or beach trip?
Oh, beach trip all day. Yeah, it's funny because like my wife, she grew up skiing. She's like she could be like almost a professional skier, I think. And my in-laws have a really dope pad. If you guys are familiar with Beaver Creek, they've got a fucking ski in, ski out of mansion pad. Like it's amazing. And, we have access to that. And we go up there typically only in the summer now.
Yeah, we have. So it's right past Vail, I think, maybe a few minutes.
Yep.
And I used to live in Vail, and they used to have a place called Beaver Liquors.
Yeah, I think it's still there. It's still there for sure.
And we bought T-shirts. Like they probably sell a zillion T-shirts out of that, more than they do liquor.
Oh, there's so much Beaver shit up there. It's crazy. So yeah, no, beach all day. Like I don't know. My wife and I, we've been talking about trying to find a place, somewhere warmer than Denver. Denver has like the best springs and summers ever. And the winters aren't bad, but yeah, beach all day.
Back in time or into the future?
I would say into the future.
How far into the future?
I would say far enough to see like maybe another generation or two if like my kids had kids type of deal.
Right.
You know, just kind of, I think it's so interesting that, you know, as especially my older son, he just turned 11 on Christmas Eve this year. And the older he gets, you start to you recognize so many traits of yourself and like the shit that they do. And so I don't know. I think, you know, definitely going into the future just to see, you know, kind of how my kids are handling themselves and, you know, stuff like that.
Weird. I was driving somewhere and I don't know how I got on this thought, but I thought about how my grandfather died when I was maybe 20, right around there. And how like we really didn't get to, so we got to know each other as me up to a 20-year-old, but I'm a completely different person now. It wouldn't be so cool if we could just chill like this weekend. You know what I mean? And so that just sucks because I don't know, sucks so hard because it would be really cool to know them now and our generations. Because I guess what made me think of that is you said about generations, you know, and so it's so weird how it can only go maybe a couple of generations before you just don't even know who those people are, you know, but yet they created me in a sense. It's just so fucked up.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's wild. Like the whole fucking 23andMe and so my wife, she's the firstborn, like American in her family. They're all from Norway. And so it's just super interesting, you know, like learning their culture and, you know, seeing all that. But yeah, just the whole, like watching the DNA and how they're linked to like this person and that person. I don't know. It's fucking wild.
I always think about that, how you have like grandparents and aunts and uncles and all these people that you see at family events. And it's only ever like family interaction where they're just like being your aunts and uncles. It's never like you sit down with your uncle and I'm like, tell me some wild ass shit you did that was like definitely against the law. You know what I mean? Like I want to hear like the girls you were with. I want to hear like all this weird shit. Like if you're my buddy, not my uncle, like even from my dad, like I've got a lot of stories out of my dad, but like, I would love to just be like, Dad, tell me about some shit that you were fucking sketched out about when you were like younger. Like, tell me everything. You never get that. You always get like, oh, all right. Like here's dinner or like, here's this thing. It's like,
how's school?
I want like nitty gritty. I want Dad to be like, this one time I shot this guy. Like,
hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Like those are the stories I want.
That reminds me, like, Andy, you're just outside of St. Louis, right?
Yep.
So it takes me back. I was probably 12 years old. And back when I was racing, drag racing junior dragsters, I was on a trip in St. Louis in Gateway, Illinois. And I was with a buddy and his dad pulled into a Kmart parking lot and we walked into the store. We had to buy some shit in the store. I don't remember what it was. The three of us were walking out, my buddy, myself, and his dad. And in the first parking spot, there was this really like busted up van and the window. Yeah. This like just a really shady ass fucking car. Like, you know,
rape van.
Just, yeah, I don't even know. Creeper ass van. And the fucking window rolls down and this little boy gets out of the car. We're probably like, I don't know, 11 or 12, I think. And this kid's gotta be like 7 or 8. And he gets out, he stands up, he's looking all tough at us, you know, he thinks he's like a little gangster, you know? And, what the fuck are you looking at? What are you looking at to us? Like me, my friend, and my friend's dad. And we're like, what is this kid doing? What the fuck? Next thing we know, another kid gets out of the van, pulls a gun, and we're like sitting in this Kmart parking lot being held. Kmart. Yeah. Kmart parking lot, held at gunpoint by like 3 little fucking 8-year-olds in St. Louis.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was Andy.
It was terrible. But like
he looked 8, but he was 24.
Whenever I think of St. Louis, obviously I just resort back to that.
Well, we have some very nice parts here, but we are also known for some crime. So yeah, if you want to find some crime, it's out there.
It's in the Kmart parking lot.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I don't think there's any Kmarts anymore though. I think they're gone.
As far as when you said Kmart, I think of like our Kmart. It's obviously not there anymore, but like it's the sketchiest part of town where Kmart is.
It used to be nice. Like before Walmart, Kmart was bomb. Like it was.
I definitely went to Kmart when I was a kid.
Yeah, I used to go all the time.
Like, that's sketchy sketch town now.
They even had like a cafeteria at the Kmart where we used to go. That was good. Like you go get a grilled cheese. It was good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right.
Andy, finish it off with the last one.
What is for dinner tonight?
So my wife took off with my daughter, and that means I'm responsible for my 2 boys. So we'll probably get, I don't know, probably do like a boy thing. We'll probably order some wings. I don't know. We get like all we eat pretty much is Mexican food. So that's the only thing that like my family eats, I feel like, is fucking Mexican food. My wife, her tolerance for spice, and my boys are like through the roof. They just did Thanksgiving that, have you guys seen that 1 chip challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Where like,
the hottest chip
in the world, it comes in a little coffin and shit. So like people that eat it, like I've seen on YouTube.
Your kids did it?
Oh yeah. Like my kids will do it. They can eat straight fire. So we'll probably we'll either do wings or Mexican food.
And you can't just get like mild buffalo wings. You have to get like ultra hot.
Oh yeah. Like my 11-year-old son, he's like, we go to this Italian place up the street, and they have, he orders mussels, and they have Carolina Reaper hot sauce, which like that Carolina Reaper is pretty like intense. It's got some fire. Yeah. And he just douses his whole plate with that shit. And like, he won't even have a drink. He'll just pound the whole dinner. He'll eat every mussel. Like it's no big deal. He's a fucking champ.
I don't know any 11-year-olds that eat mussels.
Yeah. I don't eat mussels.
Oh, he eats some crazy shit. Like, I mean, that's one cool thing. Like with my wife being from Norway, like it's really like opened up, I was like a little American boy eating fucking mac and cheese and cheeseburgers and pizza and shit. Nice. Yeah. And like, I met her family, and they're like, I go to the first dinner, and there's like, fucking fish to caca and like all kinds of crazy shit. I'm like, better make my kids fucking learn how to eat some of this shit. So yeah.
Well, thanks, Danny, for coming on this with us. We're really stoked to get you on. We're glad we could finally find a time that worked for all of us.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully I can get some Chasing Ink shit going, and we can all kind of work on that kind of stuff together.
Yeah, no, I'd love to get in on that.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thanks, dude. Have a good night. Enjoy those fucking super hot diarrhea wings you're gonna have.
Yeah, I will. Right on, guys.
Have a good night, man.
Appreciate you. Yeah, have a good night. Thank you.
See ya.